Chapter 604. Ka. The star's sword cut the armor demon's body into pieces. Lin Muyu spun in the battle formation, like a flaming iron lotus strangling the crowd. At this moment, there was only killing in Lin Muyu's eyes. There was no other color. He had even forgotten his own existence. His high was chaotic, only the rising flame of revenge. What's wrong with me? Lin Muyu couldn't help asking himself as his body spun and killed. But blood? He seemed to be very thirsty for the blood of the Devil Clan. He couldn't hold back the killing intent in his heart. You. Qin Yin came from behind and suddenly grabbed Lin Muyu's arm. Get out of my way. Lin Muyu reflexively slashed backward with his sword. Qin Yin was caught off guard and used the celestial dragon crystal to block, but it was too late. Blood bloomed on her arm. The star's sword was too sharp. What's wrong with you? Qin Yin was stunned and looked straight at Lin Muyu. The young man in front of her was no longer the Lin Muyu from before. His expression was very distorted, and there was only violence and killing in his eyes. His whole body was covered in blood. Moreover, he didn't have half of Lin Muyu's aura. It was as if he was a tool used to killing. You? Don't scare me. Qin Yin stood there helplessly, tears swirling in her eyes. This war had forced Lin Muyu into this state. How could Qin Yin not feel distressed? She knew that Lin Muyu was not obsessed with fame and status. He only participated in this war for himself and for the promise he made to the former Emperor Qin Jin. What happened to me? Lin Muyu's high was a sea of blood. His figure stood majestically above the high, looking at the endless sea of blood. Layers of murderous intent surged in his heart. The endless rage made it difficult for him to control. Even though he knew that he had hurt Qin Yin, it was still difficult to calm the murderous intent in his heart. It was as if there was a demon residing in the depths of his soul. Stay away from me, Xiao Yin. With a low roar, he turned around and rushed into the devil race's camp like a wild beast. He had to kill. Only the blood of the devil race could calm his mind. Lord Commander, what's going on? Situ Shui asked in astonishment. I don't know, Qin Yin shook her head. Looking from afar, she saw a bloody storm suddenly set off in the crowd of armor demons. It was Lin Muyu's berserk sword storm. Perhaps only he could create such a purgatory on Earth on the battlefield. However, the high-level devil race shot arrows one after another, and the armor demons threw their weapons one after another. They were all hurting Lin Muyu. No matter how strong he was, he could not control the heavy wheel of war by himself. Kill! Qin Yin turned over and mounted the horse. The nation's suppressing sword in her hand was surrounded by the dragon crystal. She led Situ Sin, Situ Shui, Fengxi, Luo Exin, and the others to fight with all their might. If they wanted to defeat the devil race, they could only fight with their lives. In the blink of an eye, it was already night. The huge pits of the magic crystal cannons on the battlefield were very frightening. Apart from the cannons, there were many corpses, both of the devil race and of humans. Lin Muyu knelt in a cannon pit, surrounded by densely packed corpses of armor demons. He was seriously injured. His chest was even directly penetrated by an arrow, and there were small wounds all over his body. Catasaurus sat next to its master, swaying its huge head and gently rubbing its master's arm, as if it was comforting its master. What's wrong with me? Lin Muyu took a deep breath. His high was no longer the same as before. Instead, it was shrouded by a blood-red cloud, and the original color of his high could no longer be seen. It was as if this blood cloud was hiding a devil. Once it started killing, Lin Muyu would fall into a state of falling into the devil's path. The star's sword was stained with blood. He really did not know how many devil race he had killed. Rustle, rustle. At the edge of the pit, a pair of bloody boots stepped on the blood-soaked soil, and the blood-stained female empress's battle robe swayed gently. Lin Muyu raised his head, and his mind was in a daze. Xiao Yin. Qin Yin saw that he was fine, and 2 lines of tears fell down. She jumped into Lin Muyu's arms and cried, You almost scared me to death, you almost scared me to death. Lin Muyu gently stroked her shoulder and said guiltily, I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me. It's as if I was possessed. Well, it's good that you are fine now. Behind him, Sidushui walked over with a blood-stained sword and said respectfully, Commander, Qianfeng has ordered to retreat. We have won a Pyrrhic victory in this battle. Good. Lin Muyu slowly stood up with the help of Qin Yin, but saw a shocking sword wound on Qin Yin's shoulder. He could not help but say, Xiao Yin, you are injured, this is? Sidushui said, Sir, this is your wound. Lin Muyu felt a pain in his heart. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm like this. It's okay. Qin Yin smiled sweetly. It's just a small wound. Let's go back to camp. You have to recuperate quickly. When Lin Muyu was helped back to the camp, Chu Yao was so scared that she almost cried. She had never seen Lin Muyu suffer such a serious injury. There was not a single part of his body that was unharmed, and his face was full of scars. Fortunately, his muscles, bones, and skin were very tough, and he had a strong recovery rate. Furthermore, his saint body would not leave any scars. Otherwise, he would be considered disfigured. The next morning, in the human camp, Lin Muyu sat on the commander's seat with his body covered in bandages. This was the first time he sat in the commander's seat in front of so many people, and Qin Yin had acquiesced. Is Commander Yu's injury all right? Su Muyun asked with concern. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Your Highness. Lin Muyu smiled. On the other hand, Su Muyun coughed violently a few times. His face was extremely pale, and his body was very weak. Lin Muyu could not help but ask, Duke Yun, is your body all right? Su Muyun shook his head. I'm fine. I just caught a cold. At the side, Chu Yao said, Duke Yun's condition is very serious. This subordinate suggests that Duke Yun should take the carriage back to Five Valleys City to recuperate. Otherwise, I'm afraid the consequences will be unpredictable. The war is urgent. As a subject of the Empire, how can I leave? Su Muyun waved his hand. I'm fine. Don't worry. If the demons don't retreat, I won't leave. Qin Yin worriedly said, Grandfather, but your body. I'm fine. I'm really fine. Su Muyun smiled. Yesterday's battle was very fruitful. The demons were defeated and retreated. I think Qianfeng has less than half of his troops left. Lin Muyu asked, How are our losses? Sidu Shui's expression was solemn. Sir, there are only 25,000 people left in the Longdan army camp. The other legions suffered even more. The Godmight Battalion has less than 4,000 people left, and the Steel Blade Army has less than 10,000 people. Now, we can use less than 150,000 people. Most of them are new recruits from the Cloud Province and the Steel Wall. Our combat power is worrying. What about the demons? We cleaned up the battlefield early in the morning. We found 50,000 armored demons' corpses and more than 4,000 high-level demons' corpses. Many of them were directly destroyed by the magic crystal cannons. Preliminary estimates show that Qianfeng can use less than 30,000 armored demons and less than 5,000 high-level demons. The Wing Tribe's combat power is average, so we don't need to count them. How many weapons and magic crystal cannons do we have left? There are 39 magic crystal cannons and more than 800 cannonballs. However, Sidu Shui's expression darkened. In the battle on the Dao River yesterday, Wei Chou and the Navy's warships annihilated 6 flying snakes. Of the Navy's 64 warships, only 8 are left. General Wei Chou is seriously injured and is recuperating in the barracks. Wei Chou is seriously injured? Yes, sir. Accompany me to see him later. Yes. Lin Muyu looked at everyone and said, Are there any changes in the battle? Zhen Yifan said, Xiang Yu is defending the 100 Ridge City. Tang Lan's reinforcements are on the way. Also, there is news from the Heavens Pivot Province. The local government said that a human army is entering the Heavens Pivot Province from the Cloud Ridge. They are attacking wantonly and have already seized 6 cities in the Heavens Pivot Province. Human army? What's their background? It's the Demon Race's advance party. If I'm not wrong. Zheng Yifan frowned. Qianfeng is delaying us here while sending his puppet army to attack the Heavens Pivot Province. If nothing unexpected happens, the Demon Race's advance party has already surrounded Divine Shadow City. Most of the troops stationed in Divine Shadow City have been transferred to the front lines. Qianfeng's wishful thinking is to use this battle to exchange for a rich and populous Heaven's Pivot province. Luo Exin laughed coldly and said, "The Vanguard army is a bunch of cowards. There's nothing to be afraid of. As long as you give me an army of 20,000, I can take back Divine Shadow City from their hands." "Don't act rashly," Lin Muyu said. "No one knows the true strength of the demon race. Perhaps Qianfeng doesn't have any troops left, but as long as there are 30 to 50,000 armored demons in the Heaven's Pivot province, I'm afraid that even 100,000 of our troops will be sent to their deaths. Unless Big Brother Feng's main force is transferred back, the Empire's army won't be able to fight the demon race head-on." "Then what do we do now?" Su Muyun asked. Lin Muyu respectfully said, "Fortify the walls and clear the fields. Clean up the battlefield, bury and burn all the corpses so that the demon race loses their food supply. It won't be long before Qianfeng retreats. If Qianfeng retreats, it means that the demon race's troops have been completely wiped out. We can then regroup and kill our way out of the steel walls and recover the Winter and Tongtian provinces. If Qianfeng doesn't retreat, it means that the demon race's vitality hasn't been greatly damaged. We still need to continue to deal with them." As she said this, Lin Muyu looked at Sidu San and said, "General Sun, order all the people in the Longdan army camp who can still fight to be stationed at the front lines. Have the magic crystal cannons on standby." "Yes, Commander." Lin Muyu stood up. Qin Yin floated over to support her and said, "Let me accompany you to see General Wei Chou? You go see him personally. I'm afraid you'll scare that kid." "Hee, I won't." Chapter 605. Wei Chou's tent. When Lin Muyu and Qin Yin walked into the tent together, Wei Chou was startled as expected. Ignoring Chu Yao who was helping him change his dressing, he got off the bed and knelt on the ground with his bare feet. "General Wei Chou greets your highness. Long live your highness." "Greetings, Commander." "Get up, there's no need to stand on ceremony." Qin Yin raised her hand with a smile and supported Wei Chou to stand up through the air with her sacred power. "How are your injuries?" Lin Muyu stepped forward and asked. Wei Chou sat back on the bed and smiled awkwardly. "2 of my ribs were broken by the flying snake's poisonous needles and pierced into my lungs. Fortunately, Great Deacon Chu Yao saved me in time, otherwise this subordinate would have lost his life." "Looks like Big Sister Chu Yao saved more than my life." Lin Muyu laughed. Wei Chou also laughed heartily. On the battlefield yesterday, there were at least more than 10 flying snakes, over 100,000 armored demons, and 10,000 high-level Nephilim troops. In addition to the Wing tribe and other Nephilim troops, Wei Chou naturally understood how cruel the battlefield was. He was extremely gratified to see Lin Muyu come back alive. And Lin Muyu also knew the danger of the naval warships bombarding the Nephilim camp. On one hand, they had to bear the direct attack of the flying snakes, and on the other hand, they had to resist the attack of the underwater Sandman army. To be honest, the Imperial Navy was almost completely annihilated in the battle yesterday. The fact that Wei Chou could come back alive was simply a great gift to the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu sat down with Qin Yin's help and said, "Your ribs are injured. You need to drink more bone soup. Let the Spirit Fire Division make you some horse bone soup. The number of war horses that died in the battle yesterday is definitely not small." Wei Chou smiled. "I'm afraid after this battle, we will have to ask Princess Shi for good horses from the Endless Forest again." "Commander, our Longdan army camp claimed to have 70,000 soldiers, but now there are less than 30,000 left. This general's heart aches. I know." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "The brothers who died in the battle are the Empire's martyrs. Their families will be well compensated. Don't worry." Qin Yin also said, "Once this war ends, new soldiers will be recruited from all places. Don't worry, Longdan Army Camp will be recruited. Recruits will be given priority to Longdan Army Camp to Army Camp Longdan Army Camp. This general represents the Courage Dragon Battalion in thanking your highness." Wei Chou bowed. Chu Yao smiled from the side and said, "Since everyone is here, I'll instruct the Spirit Fire Division to cook early. How about we eat lunch here today?" All right. Qin Yin nodded happily. Wei Chou said, Commander, do you think the demons will take advantage of the night to launch a sneak attack? They won't. Lin Muyu shook her head. Our fortifications are already very complete. The camp is surrounded by dozens of antlers and 3 layers of walls. The ballistae, arrow boxes, and magic crystal cannons are not to be trifled with. Qianfeng won't be so foolish as to court death. Yes, that's good. At this moment, a spatial energy rippled out from the side of the tent. What's that? Qin Yin looked there in surprise. She saw a sharp claw piercing through the laws of space, forcefully widening the crack. From the scales on the claw, it could be seen that it was a Catasaurus. Catasaurus was a holy dragon-type spirit beast, so it could not be measured by the standards of ordinary spirit beasts. Lin Muyu had always adopted a free-range strategy for a Catasaurus, so what a Catasaurus was doing in the different space and which plane it was in, he had no idea at all. But looking at the situation, a Catasaurus had long been self-sufficient. Not long after, a Catasaurus's big head drilled out of the spatial crack. After a while, it finally drilled out. After landing on the ground, it wagged its tail and came to Lin Muyu's side. When Lin Muyu gently stroked its head, she also found that a Catasaurus's injuries from yesterday's battle had actually healed more than half. The original scales on the wound between its neck had fallen off, but now there were new very tender scales. Oh, a Catasaurus cried out to Lin Muyu and Qin Yin, then made a vomiting motion. Soon after, with a pa sound, it vomited a bone about 30 centimeters long, which looked like a piece of animal bone. Haha. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Wei Chou, it seems that a Catasaurus knows that your ribs are broken, so it found a bone from another space to cook bone soup for you. You see, a Catasaurus is so considerate. Wei Chou helplessly looked at the bone full of mucus and said, Unfortunately, I don't have anything to entertain a Catasaurus. I can't feed him a leg, so please help me convey my gratitude. Lin Muyu nodded. Well, no problem. At this time, Chu Yao walked up and used a white cloth to wipe the bone that a Catasaurus brought. Her palm was enshrouded with fighting energy. Suddenly she was stunned and said, The spiritual power on this bone is so strong, and the bone content is also quite high. It seems that a Catasaurus did not make a mistake. This bone can really be used as a supplement for Wei Chou. Wei Chou didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You really want to cook this bone? Of course. Chu Yao said with a smile. Not only you also needs to drink it. Yesterday, he was almost pierced through the chest by an arrow. His injury is not lighter than yours. Well then, Lin Muyu said, I don't know what kind of beast this bone came from. Can it be eaten? Is it poisonous? Chu Yao laughed. Don't worry, I am the great deacon of the spiritual medicine department. How can I not see whether it is poisonous or not? I will go and inform the spiritual fire department. Just wait a moment. With that, Chu Yao walked out lightly. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said with a smile, It's good that Sister Chu Yao is here. Yes, it's good. Lin Muyu thought back to the days when she was with Chu Yao in Silver Fir City. This sister was indeed very attentive and gentle. If she had not met Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin, she might really have married Chu Yao. In any case, being in a foreign world was so lonely. When he thought of this, he thought of Tang Xiaoxi. He didn't know how she was doing in Lanyan City. Tang Lu's disloyalty was obvious. First, he framed him, and then he stationed his troops without moving. He really wasn't a good person. We are currently in a stalemate with the Qianfeng army. This is not a good thing. Why do you say that? Qin Yin asked with a smile. Lin Muyu took a sip of the tea that the guard handed over and said, Tang Lu has 300,000 troops and has been watching from the side of the Seven Seas. In the entire country, Tang Lu has the strongest troops. Even Big Brother Feng cannot compare. Once we defeat the demon race and Qianfeng retreats, Tang Lu may feel that the opportunity is gone and may not wait to make a move. Right now is the most dangerous time. Big Brother Yu is saying that Tang Lu may make a move now? Yes, if I were Tang Lu, I would choose to act now, and not wait until we defeat the devil race and send our army to the north. At that time, he would have no chance of winning. After all, the majority of those 300,000 elite soldiers are new recruits, and their battle strength is less than a third of the veterans. Our 100,000 people would be able to defeat them. That's right. I will immediately write a letter and order Luo Yu to impose martial law in the city. No need. Lin Muyu smiled slightly and looked at Qin Yin's beautiful face that was filled with worry. He is proficient in both the pen and the sword and has a meticulous mind. He and Wei Chou are both generals that I can rely on. He will definitely be able to smell the scent of Tang Lu's disloyalty. Besides, there is still Xiao Shi's 200,000 demon race troops guarding the western suburbs. Even if Tang Lu wants to attack Lanyan City, it will be impossible in less than a month. And within a month, we will definitely be able to end the war here and return to the North Ridge province. At that time, it will be the time of Tang Lu's death. Perhaps there is no need to wait until that time. Qin Yin said faintly. Oh, what do you mean? I'm sorry, big brother Yu. Actually, a few days ago, I ordered General Feng to take my imperial edict and go to Seven Seas City to take over Tang Lu's army. Lin Muyu was startled. Xiao Shi was unable to take the military power from Tang Lu's hands. I'm afraid that big brother Feng may not succeed, right? No. Qin Yin shook her head. Biting her red lips, she said, I gave Feng Jixing 2 secret orders. One of them is to kill Tang Lu. What Xiao Shi can't bear to do, Feng Jixing can. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu felt relieved. Tang Lu's rebellious intentions are clear. His death is not to be regretted. Without him, the generals of Seven Seas Province's army will be like a group of dragons without a leader. It won't be so difficult for Big Brother Feng to subdue them. And, in the blink of an eye, night fell. Under the starry sky, a group of people passed through the small path of Turtle Valley and went straight to 100 Ridge City. At the front of the group, the old General Tang Lan held the reins tightly. He spurred his horse forward. His white beard fluttered in the wind. The golden cloak behind him fluttered in the wind. Behind him was a group of seasoned veterans. Many of them were already 60 years old. After the troops reached the city, an old general spurred his horse forward. He came to the city and shouted, Seven Seas King, Tang Lan, lead the army as reinforcements. Brothers on the city wall, please open the city gate and let us in. The general guarding the city wall squinted his eyes for a long time. He said, Seven Seas King, please wait for a moment. This subordinate will go and inform Commander Xiang Yu. All right, please hurry up. The wind outside is cold. His Highness's body can't take it. An hour later, the city gate of 100 Ridge City slowly opened. Torches were gathered. Xiang Yu carried the bloodthirsty spear and spurred his horse out of the city with a group of generals. He came to Tang Lan's horse, dismounted, and knelt down. He cupped his fists and said, Xiang Yu greets your highness. Tang Lan smiled. Marquis Pingnan, please rise. Marquis Pingnan is wise and brave. Capturing 100 Ridge City has made a great contribution to the empire. Congratulations. There's no need for your highness to praise me like this. I'm just following orders. This is all her highness's intention. Let's enter the city. Yes. Xiang Yu mounted his horse and entered the city side by side with Tang Lan. He said, Her Highness Yin has given a secret order. She wants me to send troops to attack Sword Pavilion on the second day after your Highness Seven Seas King sends reinforcements to 100 Ridge City and capture Qin Yi, the traitor of the empire. Therefore, I will lead 50,000 troops and leave 100 Ridge City tomorrow. The capital of Iha Nation will be left to your Highness to guard. You're leaving too? Tang Lan looked at Xiang Yu with disappointment in her eyes. How could Xiang Yu not know what Tang Lan meant? Both of them were smart people. Xiang Yu also understood that once his 50,000 soldiers left the city, Tang Lan's 10,000 soldiers would not be able to hold down the thousands of Iha Nation's soldiers who had defected, let alone guard the city. Moreover, Long Qianlin's army could arrive at any time. Guarding the city was equivalent to waiting for death. Chapter 606. The night of early spring was chilly. As the night breeze blew, The big flag in front of the tent fluttered. Under the light of the fire, the golden purple flowers on the flag looked so beautiful. Inside the tent, Qin was meditating. Clouds of golden light lingered around her body. Under the light, her ice skin and jade bones seemed to become transparent. Streams of divine power were running in her body. Phew! After one round of breathing, Qin slowly breathed a sigh of relief. She opened her eyes, and a golden light flashed across her eyes. That was the power of the divine power. Qin clenched her fists gently and couldn't help laughing. The power of the celestial dragon crystal seemed to be more powerful. Since the divine personality was formed in her body, her cultivation had been improving at a very fast speed. In a short time, she had officially stepped into the first heaven of the divine state. The omnipresent divine power in her body had proved everything. Could it be that the divine personality was really that powerful? All of a sudden, Qin suddenly felt a powerful force slowly cruising in the distance. It was a force that was different from that of human cultivators. It was full of violence and evil. Someone was coming, and he was just a few miles away from the camp of the Empire. Bang! Grabbing the heaven-suppressing sword, Qin spun up from the brocade seat and disappeared in the air. Only a light purple space crack was left in the air, which slowly disappeared. It was the power of the void-breaking four-dimensional travel. The next moment, Qin appeared in the mountains a few miles away from the camp. A figure flashed past in front of her. She immediately spread her 5 fingers, and the divine state realm covered the sky and earth. Suddenly, the sound of trees breaking could be heard. Like a huge force, Qin's realm was full of the destructive power of the divine state. "Come out!" As she shouted, a rather ferocious laughter echoed in the forest. In a pile of rapidly withering shrubs, an old man in a gray robe stepped on the tip of a shrub. Around him were many purple-red demonic shadows. The demonic shadows whistled and danced, fluttering his gray robe. He laughed and said, "Empress Qin actually has such a cultivation. How rare, the demon saint, right?" Qin smiled faintly. She had heard about the legend of the demon saint. "You know me?" "No, I'm just guessing." Qin said, "You don't have the domineering aura of the demon emperor in your power, but there's a different kind of evil in it. So, you're most likely the legendary Saint Master. But did you sneak into the Empire's camp at night to assassinate someone?" The demon saint smiled and shook his sleeves. The demon battle energy quickly rose up. He laughed loudly and said, "Since the person I want to assassinate has come to me, how should I thank you?" Qin didn't say anything. She threw the heaven-suppressing sword and stabbed it into a rock at the side. She slowly opened her jade-like hands. Suddenly, heaven dragon crystals condensed around her. She stepped in the void and her clothes fluttered. The golden light of the heaven dragon crystals shone on her beautiful face. She was really as beautiful as a goddess, like a snow lotus that couldn't be touched. "You're courting death." The demon saint sneered, "Today, I will let you see the divine art of the 5 demons combination." Amidst the buzzing sound, the demonic shadows around the demon saint flew around and let out evil roars. Suddenly, the surrounding space seemed to be distorted, and the rocks cracked. The powerful force field contended with Qin's divine state territory, and the sound of cracking reverberated endlessly. Qin's bright eyes stared at the Saint Sovereign. She did not move, only increasing the strength of her divine power to strengthen the suppressive force of her domain. The two of them were locked in a stalemate. Finally, with a bang, the ground beneath their feet suddenly collapsed under the pressure of the suppressive force, sinking almost 10 meters deep. The original forest had already become a huge basin. Dust flew up, and the aftershocks from the collapse of the ground were endless. The surrounding mountains seemed to be shaking in response. Buzz! A heaven dragon crystal pierced through the dust and went straight for the demon saint's chest. The Holy Master roared and activated the 5 demons combination technique. Numerous demonic shadows spun and pounced on the dragon crystal. A strong force in the air shook the celestial dragon crystal. Bang! With a loud sound, the demon saint was knocked back dozens of meters. His arms were numb, and the 5 demons combination in his body dissipated by nearly 30%. However, Qin Yin's Heaven Dragon crystal was still at ease. She raised her hand, and a Heaven Dragon crystal pierced through the clouds and fell heavily. This attack was like a catastrophe. The Heaven Dragon crystal with a radius of 100 meters fell from the sky, and the demon saint couldn't dodge it. How could this be? The demon saint was stunned. According to his understanding, Qin Yin couldn't be this strong, because the demon saint was also a powerhouse at the first heaven of the divine state. However, he had a natural fear of Qin Yin's divine power. In the face of the Heaven Dragon crystal, the demon saint couldn't use his divine power at all. Could there be such a master-subordinate relationship between powers? Many demonic shadows flew around his arms, and the demon saint was surrounded by a dozen meters of blood-red Grandmaster devil power. He raised his palms in a shocking manner and shouted, "Impossible!" The strongest form of the 5 demons combination went head-on against Qin Yin's Heaven Dragon crystal. Bang! The ground suddenly cracked open, and the demon saint spat out a mouthful of blood as he retreated. Seeing that the Heaven Dragon crystal was about to fall, he hurriedly waved his palms behind him. Suddenly, a crack in the space opened up, and he jumped into it, shattering the void. Boom! The ground shook violently. The Heaven Dragon crystal that Qin Yin launched with 90% of her power directly blasted a deep hole in the ground. It was at least 100 meters deep, and the demon saint was already seriously injured. He teleported a few miles away. Qin Yin slowly breathed a sigh of relief. In her Yi, the law of light's overgod divine spark was emitting a gentle and holy light, rapidly replenishing the divine power she had lost. The Sage Master probably did not know why he had lost. He had lost because of the grade of his divine spark. Humans pursued the heavenly Tao, but the heavenly Tao was vague, and how many people could understand it? The Godhead was the crystallization of the essence of human cultivation between heaven and earth and the universe. It was known as the treasure of the 3 realms. Almost every Godhead was condensed through countless hardships, and the Godhead was divided into 5 grades. The 5th grade, which was also the lowest grade of divine spark, was known as the mortal spark. It was the divine spark formed by the cultivators of the mortal realm. It was not difficult to obtain the mortal spark. As long as one was good at cultivating and persevering, it would be possible. The mortal spark was also known as the wild spark, which was why it was looked down upon by the gods of the heaven realm. Qin Han, Luolan, the demon emperor, and the Saint Master all possessed the 5th grade mortal spark. The 4th grade was the heavenly Tao personality. After a cultivator comprehended the laws of the heavenly Tao, they condensed the Godhead, which was slightly more powerful than the mortal personality. The 3rd grade was the immortal personality. It used the God Emperor personality of the heaven realm as the source of power, and after thousands of years of refinement, it was more powerful than the heavenly Tao personality. The 2nd grade was the overgod Godhead. It was the most powerful Godhead that governed the laws of all elements. The destiny overgod Godhead that Qin Yin had awakened was the light element sovereign Godhead. There was only one overgod Godhead in the world. The 1st grade was the sovereign personality. It was the sovereign personality. There were a total of 3 sovereign personalities in the universe. It was said that one of them was in the EC of the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Otherwise, he would not have the power to easily kill an emperor god. However, this was only a legend. As for whether the Godhead that the 7 luminaries demon emperor possessed was the sovereign personality, no one knew. In this sneak attack, the demon saint had calculated that Qin Yin had entered the God state. However, he did not expect that the Godhead that Qin Yin possessed was the 2nd grade. This was the reason why the demon saint was defeated. The divine power needed to break through the void was very vast. Moreover, every time she traveled through space, she needed the divine power to protect her body from being corroded by the sand of time. Therefore, even the Master God personality could not break through the void twice in a short period of time. Even though Qin Yin sensed the direction of the demon saint, she did not kill him. This might put her in a difficult situation. One demon saint was hard enough to deal with. If the demon emperor came, she was afraid that she would not be a match for him. At this time, torches were lit in the direction of the Empire's camp. It seemed that everyone had noticed the commotion here. In fact, it was hard not to notice. The battle between Qin Yin and the demon saint had almost razed the entire forest to the ground. The shock caused by the battle was like an earthquake to the Empire's army nearby. Moreover, the scene of the celestial dragon crystal falling from the sky was too eye-catching. It was like an oracle. As long as one was not blind, they could see it from afar. Qin Yin frowned. It was time to leave. However, the divine power in her body was still recovering. It would take a few more minutes before she could break through the void again. At this time, a person carrying a long sword dashed out of the forest. Astral power flickered under her feet. It was Lin Muyu. In this kind of terrain, he arrived faster than anyone else. Leaping over the grass, Lin Muyu's feet were surrounded by the Emperor's fighting flame. He had already arrived in front of Qin Yin. He could not help but exclaim, "Xiao Yin, it really is you. Who was that just now?" Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse technique was also very sensitive. It was just that he could not make it in time. Qin Yin did not know how to explain. She could only tell the truth. It was the Demon Saint Master. The Demon Saint Master? Lin Muyu frowned. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "Where is the Demon Saint Master?" "He got injured and ran away." "You injured him?" "Yes." Lin Muyu walked forward and raised her palm. The calabash flower bloomed with the power of the first light of dawn. A golden light illuminated the surroundings. In front of them was the huge pit created by the celestial dragon crystal. Lin Muyu was shocked. He said, "Xiao Yin, is this your masterpiece?" "Yes." Qin Yin could not deny it even if she wanted to. "Then why are you still standing here like a fool?" Lin Muyu grabbed her little hand. "Let's go. Do you want everyone in the Empire to know that you have cultivated to the divine state?" "Why not?" You're right." Lin Muyu had always thought that people should keep a low profile. However, after being asked by Qin Yin, she was a little dumbfounded. In fact, with Qin Yin's identity and status, if she announced to the world that she had stepped into the divine state and was a real god, she might be able to win the hearts of the world. Chapter 607. Another mouthful of blood splattered on the red carpet. The sacred master's expression was extremely ugly as he shakily sat down on a chair with the help of his guards. The demon king sat quietly at the side and waited for the sacred master to drink a mouthful of nourishing soup before saying, "Sacred master, who injured you so badly? Could it be that old fellow Qin Han is already here?" "It's not Qin Han, it's Qin Yin." The sacred master's eyes were filled with intense killing intent. "Qin Yin?" The demon king frowned and said in disbelief, "How is this possible? Qin Yin is just a little girl who has cultivated for 20 years. With the sacred master's ability, even Ouyang Yen, the fiery dance divine monarch, would not be able to injure you, let alone a mere Qin Yin." "Your Majesty." The sacred master's face was pale as he said, "When I was fighting against Qin Yin, this subordinate's divine power actually seemed to naturally submit to Qin Yin's divine power. This caused this subordinate to only be able to use half of his cultivation. In addition, the celestial dragon crystal that Qin Yin condensed is really powerful. The celestial dragon crystal contains a vast amount of saint energy. This saint energy can be said to be the natural nemesis of the 5 demons combination." "You're saying that your divine power has a natural submissive feeling in Qin Yin's hands?" "Yes." "Could it be?" The demon king's body trembled as his face instantly turned pale. "Could it be that the godhead that Qin Yin possesses is the legendary heavenly Tao godhead? How is this possible? She is just a little girl who is still wet behind the ears. How could she understand the laws of heaven and earth? Could it be the third great caste immortal godhead that old fellow Qin Han found in the heaven realm?" "Impossible." The sacred sovereign frowned and said, "Although Qin Han, that old bastard, had indeed ascended to the heaven realm once, the caste immortal lattice is extremely precious. All the god kings and god emperors in the heaven realm yearned for it, but Qin Han was not a saint. If he had obtained the cast immortal lattice, he would have cultivated it himself. Why would he leave it to Qin Yin after thousands of years? The demon king took a deep breath and said, if that's really the case, then it's too terrifying. It's impossible for Qin Yin to condense the heavenly Tao fate or the forged immortal fate. So, it can only be the overgod fate. Sovereign spark? The sacred master was astonished. That's a god-emperor spark that was destined to be born, and there are only 10 or so sovereign sparks in the universe. How could this Qin Yin possibly have formed a sovereign spark? She was born by destiny. The Nephilim king clenched his fist. If this little girl's luck is really extraordinary, if that's the case, then we have to get rid of Qin Yin. If Qin Yin doesn't die, it'll be difficult for us to seize this continent. Qin Yin must die. Sacred Master, do you have any news about Yaoji? Yaoji is thousands of miles away. The Sacred Master nodded and said, Your Majesty, today's battle is unfavorable for us. Lin Muyu's magic crystal cannons are very powerful. More than half of the demon race's army has been destroyed. If we continue to fight, I'm afraid that we will perish together with the human empire. In this subordinate's opinion, it's better to retreat. The Nephilim king's dark eyes were filled with hatred. He said, But we must kill Qin Yin. As long as Qin Yin is dead, we will have won a great victory after we leave the Tongtian Gorge. Yes, this subordinate will arrange it. Sacred Master, rest early. Tomorrow morning, let's see what Marshal Qianfeng has arranged. The next day, there was no movement from the demon race. They didn't attack or retreat, and Lin Muyu could only set up a defensive position and confront Qianfeng. On the 22nd of February, in the western suburbs of Lanyan City, in a camp of the demon race, a letter was sent to Tang Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi looked at the letter in her hand, and her beautiful face was full of horror. Shao Yin ordered grandfather to lead 10,000 soldiers to reinforce Bailing City? There are at least 100,000 Iha Kingdom soldiers to the south of Bailing City. Tang Zhen, who had grown a long beard, cupped his fists and said, It seems that Her Highness is really determined to get the Lingnan territory. Otherwise, she wouldn't have sent His Highness the Seven Seas King to guard Bailing City. Tang Xiaoxi shook her head. No, Tang Zhen, you still don't understand Shao Yin's intention. It's impossible to defend Bailing City with just 10,000 soldiers. The Iha Kingdom has deep roots in Bailing City. How can they be subdued by just 10,000 soldiers? Moreover, Long Qianlin and Ding Shi will definitely send their army back to reinforce Bailing City. By then, Bailing City will be a dead city. Then what should we do? Isn't Duke Lan? Tang Zhen panicked when he heard this. After all, he used to be a general of the Tang family. Although he didn't agree with Tang Lan's way of keeping a low profile, he still didn't want to see Tang Lan die in vain. Tang Xiaoxi clenched her fists tightly as she crushed the letter and said, I don't care what Shao Yin thinks, but he's my grandfather. I can't just sit by and watch him die in battle in 100 Ridge City. He's my grandfather, at your command. Tang Zhen nodded. Gather 5,000 light cavalrymen and follow me to Bailing City through a shortcut. With our fastest speed, we might be able to reach Bailing City in 5 days. Yes, Your Highness. Tang Zhen nodded and said, Princess, Commander Feng Jixing is here. What's General Feng doing here? He has the Empress's edict, the Seven Seas King's handwritten letter, and a Tang sect order. He says that he's going to Seven Seas City to mobilize Tang Lu's army to Tsangnan province to defend against the enemy. I see. Let's go. Follow me to see Feng Jixing. Outside the camp, the spring breeze was gentle. Feng Jixing didn't bring many men with him. His face looked weathered and he must have stayed up late to travel. He cupped his fists and smiled. Feng Jixing pays his respects to Princess Shi. General Feng is too courteous. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said, Is General Feng here for military power? Do you have the confidence to obtain military power? Feng Jixing answered honestly and smiled. But I'll do my best and not let you down. Good. You're Mu's brother. I'll lend you a hand. Tang Xiaoxi took out a Tang sect order from the space bag at her waist and threw it to Feng Jixing. Tang sect order? Feng Jixing was stunned. That's right. Tang Xiaoxi said, if you have 2 Tang sect orders, Tang Lu's courage to disobey the imperial edict will be reduced. Thank you, Princess Shi. No need to thank me. I have something to ask General Feng for help. What is it? Princess Shi, feel free to tell me. Tang Xiaoxi moved her jet black hair that was blown about by the cool breeze and said, Tang Lu is the last descendant of the Tang clan, and he's grandfather's last hope as well. So, Commander Feng, please spare Tang Lu's life no matter what, all right? I'll do my best. Do your best, Tang Xiaoxi sighed faintly. All right then. Do your best. She also knew that Tang Lu disobeyed the imperial edict. Just this alone was enough for him to die 100 times. Feng Jixing was decisive and resolute. If Tang Lu still refused to forgive him, Feng Jixing might not spare his life. Where are you going, Princess Shi? Feng Jixing asked again. To 100 Ridge City to see grandfather, Tang Xiaoxi said desolately. To 100 Ridge City? Feng Jixing frowned and said, 100 Ridge City is at war. I think it's better for Princess Shi not to go there. No, I have to go. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and bowed to Feng Jixing like a lady. Xiao Shi will take her leave. General Feng, please take care. Yes. In the 100 Ridge City, the Duke of Jianan's mansion was brightly lit at night. At this moment, the mansion had become the temporary residence of the Seven Seas King, Tang Lan. There was an endless stream of people inside and outside the mansion, all busy with their own affairs. The majority of the people who came to the Duke of Jianan's mansion were the officials and nobles in the city. Everyone knew that the Lingnan province had changed hands, and the 100 Ridge City had fallen into the hands of the empire. This also meant that the Iha nation had begun to decline. When the country was about to collapse, the most important thing was to find a backer as soon as possible, and Tang Lan was the perfect backer. Your Highness, the Prefecture Lord of 100 Ridge City, Zhou Xian, has just come and sent a gift worth about 500 Jining coins. I've placed it in the mansion's treasury. It's up to your Highness how to deal with it, the old General Tang Bai said respectfully. Yes. Tang Lan put down the scroll in her hand and looked at the oil lamp beside her. Has Xiang Yu's army left the city? Yes, the South Vanquishing Duke has already attacked the Sword Pavilion. How many people are left in the city? Your Highness, 100 Ridge City is a big city. There are 8 city gates in the east, south, west, and north. Each gate must be guarded by 200 people. In this way, we need 8,000 people to guard each gate. In addition, we also need people to patrol the streets. The Fire Sparrow division of the Iha Nation is unreliable, and I need another 1,500 people to patrol. Therefore, the Duke's mansion is the least guarded, with only 500 soldiers. Tang Lan frowned and said, Only 500 people? Have the private armies of the nobles in the city been handed over? No, especially the Northern Qi mansion. Northern Qi's eagle, that old man, relied on his position as the head of the Tianshu family to order the Northern Qi mansion servants and guards to shut their doors. He didn't offer any gifts and even said that the Northern Qi mansion would still be loyal to the South Vanquishing Duke, Qin Yi, when Long Qianlin returns to 100 Ridge City. How presumptuous! Tang Lan said coldly. Tang Bai said, Your Highness, when the city was in turmoil last night, Northern Qi's retainer, Yang Fan, started a fight and killed 5 of his enemies on the street. He has been captured by the Fire Sparrow division. How does Your Highness wish to deal with him? Killing in private is a capital crime. Tang Lan waved his hand. Then, what if that old man Northern Qi comes looking for trouble? Call back the 2,000 soldiers at the south gate. If the Northern Qi mansion dares to act rashly, kill them all. Yes, your subordinate understands. Tang Lan had been on the battlefield all his life. His personality was firm and brave, and he had never been threatened by others. Moreover, the Northern Qi mansion thought of itself as a noble family. This made Tang Lan even angrier. However, Tang Lon could not have imagined that this small action would bring him endless trouble. Chapter 608. Early in the morning, the head of the Northern Qi official, Yang Fan, was hung high on the city gate as punishment. To the side was a notice from Tang Lon. The laws of the empire were the same in Hundredling City. Those who killed without permission had to pay with their lives. Even if they used the heavenly book to kill, they had to pay with their lives. Clang! A heavy palm landed on the golden silkwood table. The nearly 60-year-old Northern Qi Eagle's face was full of anger. He was a member of the Heavenly Book family in Iha Kingdom and the only person in Iha Kingdom who could write the Heavenly Book. With his cultivation of the second tier of the Heaven Realm, how could he endure such humiliation? With a face full of anger, he said in a low voice, "The Northern Qi Prefecture and the Empire are irreconcilable. Lin Muyu killed my son, Northern Qi Huan. Now, Tang Lon has gone too far and killed Yang Fan of the Northern Qi Prefecture. It is truly despicable." To the side, the eldest son, Northern Qi Ao, said, "Father, don't be angry. Tang Lon only has less than 10,000 soldiers in his hands. After dividing them among the 4 city gates, he will only have a few hundred people he can use. The Northern Qi Prefecture's private army has 2,000 people and hundreds of heavenly books. Do we need to be afraid of a mere Tang Lon? As long as you give the order, I will immediately lead the guards and the private army to the Jinan Prince's manor, kill Tang Lon, and chase these dogs of the Empire out of Hundredling City." As he spoke, the corners of Northern Qi's mouth twitched. "Father, the commander is trapped in the sword pavilion, but Marshal Long Qianlin is already on his way back. Once he receives the commander, he will certainly point his vanguard directly at Hundredling City. If at this time, the Northern Qi Prefecture can use the power of the prefecture to take Hundredling City and offer it to the commander, then the Northern Qi Prefecture can be said to be the most meritorious service in Iha Kingdom. What do you think, father?" "Aoer, you still haven't thought deeply enough." The Northern Qi Eagle smiled coldly. "Tang Lon, that old thing, why do we need to do it ourselves to finish him off? We only need to move our mouths and spend Jinin coins to have Tang Lon deliver his own head to the city gate tower. Oh? What does father plan to do?" "We only need to do this." At noon, a large group of Iha country civilians surrounded the Prince of Jinan's mansion. Everyone's face was filled with righteous indignation. They waved their fists and loudly cursed the soldiers who were holding shields and looking flustered in front of the mansion's gate. At the same time, they wrote a line of words in red ink with a long white cloth. "The Empire's dogs have no conscience, and I will live and die with Iha country." Not only that, these thousands of people even waved their arms and shouted in unison, demanding an explanation from Tang Lon. Otherwise, they would continue to cause trouble and surround the prince consort's residence, leaving Tang Lon unable to advance or retreat. It wasn't until the afternoon that the gates of the palace finally opened. Tang Lon walked out wearing a brocade robe with a 3-star purple flower insignia on his neck. He stared coldly at the people causing trouble outside the palace and said, "All of you, quiet down. Tell me, what do you want?" In the crowd, an old man walked out and said with a trembling voice, "This old man greets your highness, the 7 Seas monarch. You don't have to be so courteous. Tell me." The old man nodded and said, "The Iha nation has always promoted equality and benevolence. But now that the Empire has taken over our city and killed our comrades, the cruelty of the Empire's soldiers has angered both men and gods. Your Highness, 7 Sea King, you have killed Yang Fan and many of the people of the Iha nation. Everyone says that Empress Qin Yin is benevolent, but now we don't see any benevolence. How are you different from beasts for committing such atrocities?" "Yang Fan killed people privately, so he deserved to die," Tang Lon said coldly. "This is the territory of Iha country, so we should follow the laws of Iha country. Killing people with the heavenly book is not against the law." "How dare you?" Tang Lan's eyes turned cold. "Bailing City has been the Empire's territory for thousands of years, so we should follow the Empire's laws. A life for a life, there's no need to say anything more." The old man gritted his teeth. Your Highness, you can't distinguish between right and wrong. It's really disappointing. We are all free people of Iha country, and we are definitely not willing to be slaves of the Empire. Since your Highness is stubborn, we can only fight to the death. You! Tang Lan's eyes turned cold. He spread his fingers and said, Tang Bai, form an offensive formation and seal off the entrance of the imperial residence. Kill anyone who dares to block the entrance. Tang Bai led a group of Tang clan soldiers and rushed forward, killing several people directly. Blood directly dyed the stairs of the imperial residence red. Many people were already scared out of their wits when they saw the corpses. However, there were a few people in the crowd who picked up bricks and smashed them randomly at the Tang clan soldiers. Tang Bai was instantly enraged. He raised his steel blade and said, Kill these unruly people. Yes. Everyone started a massacre. Arrows were shot randomly, and in the blink of an eye, a large number of troublemakers were killed. The eyes of the soldiers were also bloodshot. They raised their weapons and rushed out of the imperial residence, and even killed people into the streets. Murder! Murder! The Empire's dogs are going to massacre the city. Some people shouted. At this time, it was afternoon business time in the 100 Ridge City. Countless merchants and pedestrians on the streets were so scared that their faces turned pale. Especially when they saw the Tang clan soldiers killing people in the distance, they were scared out of their wits and ran away. In the blink of an eye, the streets were already in chaos. For an entire afternoon, the news spread through the streets and alleys of the city. No one knew who spread the news that Tang Lan was going to massacre the city, but almost the millions of people in the 100 Ridge City knew that Tang Lan was going to wield the butcher's knife. When night fell, the city gates were attacked again and again. Countless citizens requested to leave the city. Under the situation where the guards refused to open the gates, many mercenaries and warriors of the House of Chivalry chose to attack. This night was destined to be a night of turmoil. The next morning, Tang Lan didn't sleep at all. His hair was completely white. Your Highness, Tang Bai's expression was pale as he said, Last night, the guards at the south gate lost more than 300 people. The north gate lost even more. They lost nearly 1,000 people. We don't even know who killed them. How sad, as soldiers of the Empire, we should have died on the battlefield. Now, we are going to die under the knives and swords of these despicable people. Tang Lan's gaze was devoid of emotion as he looked at this old friend. I, Tang Lan, have always been skilled in scheming. Now, I am going to die under the schemes of others. I cannot accept this, Tang Bai said. Your Highness, who do you think this group of people are? Who they are is no longer important. Tang Lan seemed to have aged decades. Qi Nin wants me dead. Qi Ni also wants me dead. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Su Miyun, and the others all want to skin me and eat my flesh. Now, even these wicked people of Iha country want me dead. Northern Qi, oh Northern Qi, I Tang Lan, have roamed the world my entire life. When have I ever been afraid of such lowly people? But now, I have to rely on others and be controlled by the Northern Qi government. Your Highness, Tang Bai's heart ached. We still have at least 5,000 people in our hands. There is no need to be controlled by the Northern Qi government. They have Tianshu and so do we. What is there to be afraid of? Tang Lan slowly shook his head. It's useless, it's useless. The blame lies solely on me, Tang Lan, and not on you. Tang Bai, immediately gather your men and bring these 5,000 people to break out of the city. Her Highness Yin only ordered me to defend the city, so, let me, Tang Lan, defend the 100 Ridge City alone. Whether I live or die, it's up to fate. Tang Bai gritted his teeth. I will not abandon your Highness. If we die, then we die together. I will gather everyone to defend the manor. Tang Lan sighed. Why must you do this? Tang Bai smiled. This is my last act of loyalty as a Tang family general. Please, your Highness, give me this opportunity. Let me die with you on the battlefield. The Iha country's traitors will be killed by both men and gods. Fighting against them, I will die without regrets. Okay. At noon, Tanglan's army gave up on the 4 city gates and gathered all 5,000 people in the manor. It seemed that Tanglan was already fighting against the entire military power of Iha country. Amidst the sound of horse hooves, a row of riders galloped forward and faced Tanglan's army from afar. "Who are they?" Tanglan asked the person beside him, dressed in armor and holding a steel knife. Tangbai said, "They are mercenaries, Iha country's mercenaries." Tanglan couldn't help but smile. Iha country actually spent money to hire mercenaries to kill me? Looks like that's the case. Tangbai laughed bitterly. At this time, a mercenary wearing a high-ranking military rank urged his horse forward. He had a face full of beard and held a heavy battle axe in his hand. He smiled and said, "You old men, which one of you is Tanglan?" Tanglan urged his horse forward. "I am." The mercenary laughed heartily. "So it's you. Looks like you can't even withstand a blow from my axe." Tanglan, listen carefully. "I am the president of the Iha country's Vanguard Mercenary Guild. My name is Li Dalei. Remember my name. The people of Northern Qi have offered 20 million Jin coins for your head. As long as we get your head, we will not have to worry about food or clothing for the rest of our lives." Tanglan laughed coldly. "So my head is so valuable. Li Dalei, if you want my head, then come and take it. If you have the ability, cut the crap. Charge and kill." Li Dalei gave the order and the mercenaries immediately charged. "Get into formation, defensive formation." At Tangbai's command, a group of old soldiers immediately moved with shields in their hands. Although they were old, in terms of fighting ability, they were tens of thousands of times stronger than this motley crew of mercenaries. Shields were erected in great numbers and spears were thrust forward. 3 consecutive lines of spears were formed, rendering the charge of the mercenaries useless. Soon, the mercenaries became meat skewers on the tips of the spears. "Damn it!" Li Dalei flew into a rage. "Everyone charge!" Nearly 2,000 mercenaries charged forward, and a bloody battle began in front of the prince's residence. On the 23rd of February, the Vanguard Mercenary Guild was completely annihilated. Tanglan's army also lost nearly 1,000 men. Early in the morning, another group of people began to attack the prince's residence. They were provincial soldiers from the counties under the jurisdiction of Bailing City. There were more than 4,000 of them, and they were well equipped. After a few volleys of arrows, they killed hundreds of Tanglan's men. At this time, Tanglan's army was also showing signs of fatigue. However, there were more and more soldiers outside the mansion, and the flags of the Iha nation were joined together. At noon, the crowd parted. The leader of Northern Qi, Northern Qi-ing, walked out in a long robe. He cupped his fists and smiled. "Tanglan, Duke Lan, Your Highness, I have come to send you on your way." Chapter 609. Northern Qi Eagle? Tanglan leaned on his long sword and laughed shakily. 10 years ago, I came to Bailing City once. At that time, the power of the heavenly book had not yet awakened. You were just a servant boy who served tea. Now, you are already the Prime Minister of Iha Kingdom. The tides of life change in an instant. Northern Qi Eagle, do you want my head as a gift to Qini? Why not? The wrinkles on the Northern Qi Eagle's face were about to bloom from his smile. Tanglan, you have been immersed in power and wealth. You never thought you would end up like this, right? Once the cunning hare is dead, the hound is cooked. It has always been like this. You hold great power and make Qin suspicious. It is reasonable for you to end up like this. If you know what's good for you, obediently hand over your head. I can still spare your subordinates on account of your virtue and prestige. Tanglan paused and seemed to be moved. Just as he was about to speak, Tangbai suddenly pulled the bowstring of an arrow box hidden behind a pomegranate tree leaf. Immediately, a series of steel arrows flew straight toward the Northern Qi Eagle. "Father, be careful." The Northern Qi Eagle gave a low roar and suddenly swung the long sword in his hand. The power of heaven and earth surged in an instant. Endless frost formed an ice shield in front of the Northern Qi Eagle, blocking all the steel arrows. However, a number of Northern Qi private soldiers around them were shot to death. Their intestines were pierced and they died wretchedly. Northern Qi Eagle glanced at them and couldn't help but say with an ashen face, "This group of ignorant old men. Father, there is no need to be polite to them. Just kill them. Tang Lan cannot escape." The Northern Qi Eagle looked coldly in the direction of the manor and said, "Advance with the shield formation. Be careful of their arrow boxes." In reality, Tang Lan only had 2 arrow boxes. They had come in a hurry and had no time to bring more. Tang Bai had already made up his mind to kill and did not want to drag out an ignoble existence. This made Tang Lan feel helpless and pained. These old generals were all battle-hardened family soldiers of the Seven Seas Tang sect. Now, they were all going to die here for no reason and become gifts from the Northern Qi government to Qi Ni. How ironic was this? "Archers, fire!" Tang Bai roared. He held a steel knife in his hand and stood guard outside the door. He did not budge an inch as he looked at the Northern Qi private army outside. He roared, "Fiery tome, release." The 3 heavenly tomes exploded in an instant. Raging flames engulfed the dozens of private soldiers who were attacking outside the mansion. However, the opponent's counterattack was even fiercer. The Northern Qi mansion was the most powerful family of heavenly tomes in the Iha kingdom. Naturally, they would not be lacking in heavenly tomes. A group of family generals rushed over and raised their weapons. Suddenly, a storm, raging flames, and frost swept up the walls of the mansion, killing the archers there one by one. Wretched screams filled the air. The Prince of Jinnan's mansion was very sturdy and well fortified. There were even 4 tall watchtowers inside the mansion. At this moment, 100 archers entered the watchtowers and shot down from above. This created a great deal of pressure for the Northern Qi people outside the city. Tang Bai also ordered people to find oil from the mansion's kitchen and pour it outside. He ordered a fire and also delayed some of the opponent's attacks. But the Northern Qi people's slow attack did not mean that Tang Lan's army could win. Tang Lan and Tang Bai both knew that the Northern Qi mansion's military power was not less than theirs. They also had the support of all the noble families and nobles in the city. In reality, Tang Lan's army was fighting alone. There was no chance of victory. Their current resistance was only delaying. Tang Lan's muddy eyes were filled with confusion. Sitting under the eaves, he watched the endless arrows fall into the courtyard. He said, "Tang Bai, I'm going to sleep for a while. When the Northern Qi people attack in, call me." "Yes, Your Highness." When Tang Bai turned to look, he was frightened by Tang Lan's expression. For the first time, despair and confusion appeared on Tang Lan's face. 500 li away, on a small path outside the forest, dust billowed. The travelers and caravans on the road all made way. A line of 5,000 light cavalry of the National Army galloped past, kicking up a cloud of dust. Tang Xiaoxi, dressed in a deep purple princess cloak, tightly gripped the reins of her snow pear warhorse. She rushed at the front of the formation. Her beautiful face was full of fatigue and anxiety. After 2 days and 2 nights of continuous travel, she was almost exhausted. To the side, Tang Jin looked at Tang Xiaoxi's appearance and couldn't help but say, "Princess, we've been traveling for too long. Many of the soldiers can't take it anymore. Why don't we rest for the night and leave tomorrow morning? That way, when we reach Bailing City, we can preserve some of our strength and battle power." Tang Xiaoxi's elegant brows furrowed. Thinking of Tang Lan's situation in Bailing City, she couldn't help but feel as if a knife was twisting in her heart. Slowly, she said, "Grandfather shouldn't have ended up like this. I can't just watch him throw away his life. We must reach Bailing City as quickly as possible. We must march through the night. We must reach Bailing City before sunrise tomorrow." At night, the outside of the Duke of Jinnan's mansion was ablaze. The attack of the Iha country's army was even fiercer. Even many provincial soldiers from the prefectural cities had rushed over. They used the siege chariots to smash the walls of the Duke's mansion. Puff! A steel arrow shot into Tang Lan's arm. She felt a burning pain. The arrow seemed to have been dipped in poison. Tang Lan didn't care so much. She pulled out the bloody arrowhead and threw it aside. She said, "Tang Bai, how many of them are here?" "I don't know." "Many, God damn it." Tang Lon was a little helpless. She asked, "How many warhorses do we have?" "At least 2,000. It's enough. Order everyone to equip the warhorses with armor. We're going to rush out. We can't continue to sit here and wait for death. The elite soldiers of Bai Ling City are gone. These mobs might not be able to stop us." Tang Bai walked forward and helped Tang Lon onto the warhorse. However, the blood on Tang Lan's arm flowed down his fingers. Tang Bai couldn't help but ask, "Your Highness, are you all right? I'll bandage it for you. We'll leave after that." "No, it's too late." Tang Lon said, "The defense of the east courtyard is weak. We'll kill our way out from there." The sound of hooves became more concentrated. Close to 1,500 Tang sect cavalrymen charged out from the east gate. However, there were still at least 1,000 soldiers from nominal peace country outside the east courtyard. Tens of thousands of arrows were fired at the same time. The cavalrymen in the front row were killed one after another. They groaned and fell to the ground with their warhorses. It was an extremely tragic scene. Tang Lon followed the army on the warhorse. Tang Bai held a heavy shield in front of Tang Lon. He shouted in a low voice, "Charge forward. Don't hesitate. Protect His Highness." More and more people died. The Iha country's army on both sides of the road increased. Many people were shouting, "Capture Tang Lon and make him a prince. Whoever seizes Tang Lan's head will be rewarded with 10 million gold and be made a marquis." The arrows were swift and fierce. In the blink of an eye, 2 arrows shot into Tang Bai's abdomen armor, which wasn't protected by the shield. He let out a muffled groan but didn't say anything. He slashed the arrows with his steel blade and left the arrowheads in his body. He continued to protect Tang Lon as he charged forward. The Prince of Jinnan's residence was about 5 kilometers away from the north gate. However, this distance was like a road of death. They fought all the way until dawn when they finally saw the north gate in the distance. Tang Bai's face was pale. He said, "Your Highness? Your Highness, we're about to break out of the encirclement." Yes, Tang Lan's face was ashen. He had lost a lot of blood from his arm. He said, "The gate will definitely be heavily guarded. Send an elite team to kill our way out and climb the gate. Also, see if there are any Imperial reinforcements in the distance." "There won't be any reinforcements." Tang Bai mumbled, "The Empire has already given up on us old fellows." Tang Lon trembled slightly. At this time, a young and valiant general of the Tang family led a few dozen men and dashed forward. Their swords danced in the air, cutting the Iha soldiers who were blocking their way into pieces. The moment he climbed up the gate, he was covered in blood and his chest was full of arrows. At this time, the first rays of dawn appeared. A ray of sunlight fell on his face as if it was shining on a new dream. Under the light of dawn, he saw a row of cavalry in the distance. The purple Yinhua war flag and the 7 Hearts begonia war flag fluttered in the air. He couldn't help but tremble. He turned to look at Tang Lon and said, "Your Highness, reinforcements are here." "Reinforcements?" Tang Lon was excited. "Who is it?" "It's the flag of the kingdom guarding army. Princess Shi is here." "Your Highness, Princess Shi is here to save us." "Great, open the gate." But right at this moment, a figure suddenly descended from the sky, raised his hand, and chopped off the Tang family's young general's head, sending it flying. Fresh blood splattered all over his face. It was none other than Luo Lan's disciple, the Saint Realm powerhouse, Han Jun. Han Jun licked his bloody palm and smiled. "Men, seal the gate. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive." The 7 world palaces had sent out their troops. Dozens of Heaven Realm and Saint Domain experts charged into the crowd, and in the blink of an eye, they had killed nearly 100 Tang clan soldiers. Han Jun's face was filled with rage as he bellowed, "Kill them! Kill them all! Leave Tang Lan's head for me!" Tang Lan's face was ashen. Looking at the tall city walls in the distance, he couldn't help but cry out in pain. He clutched his chest and cried, "Shao Shi, my good Shao Shi, grandfather will not be able to live to see you again." Tang Bai hurriedly grabbed the reins of Tang Lan's warhorse and shouted, "Men, protect His Highness and charge back." There were not many people left in Tang Lan's army. A few dozen people had died under the sharp arrows. In the end, only Tang Bai and Tang Lan, the two old generals, were left galloping through the streets filled with soldiers and civilians of Iha Nation. It was a mess. Jiao Jiao, the war horse whinnied. Tang Bai's war horse lost its front hooves and fell to the ground. Following that, the war horse carrying Tang Lan also fell to the ground. Tang Bai hurriedly helped the bloodied Tang Lan up. He was so anxious that tears fell from his eyes. Duklon, subordinate is useless, subordinate is useless. Tang Lan slowly shook his head. Old friend, we tried our best. A group of Iha Nation civilians surrounded them. Some of them were holding a blacksmith's hammer, some were holding a hoe, and some were holding a tailor's scissors. Their faces were twisted with hatred. One of them said, "That old man is Tang Lan. He is the one who wants to overthrow Iha Nation and make us the Empire's dogs again. Kill him! Kill him!" They got closer and closer. Tang Lan and Tang Bai sat back to back on the ground. They couldn't help but burst into laughter as tears rolled down their cheeks. Chapter 610. Kill him. The flames of anger seemed to want to devour the two old men in front of them. The Iha commoners came closer and closer. One of them swung his hammer at Tang Bai. "You're looking to die." Tang Bai gathered his remaining strength and swung his sword, cutting the blacksmith in half at the waist. Blood splattered on the ground. "Murder! Murder! These dogs of the Empire have gone mad. They're killing people. Kill him." T. Tang Bai looked angrily at the Iha commoners and said, "You killing people is not murder, but is it unforgivable for me to kill people? Hypocritical Iha, hypocritical Qin I, you lowly and pitiful foolish commoners. Kill him! Kill him!" The commoners' cries grew louder and louder. Outside the crowd, the people from Northern Qi had already arrived. The Northern Qi eagle spurred on his warhorse with a group of private soldiers beside him. Beside him, the Northern Qi Bai said, "Father, these commoners want to kill Tang Lan and steal his credit. What should we do?" The Northern Qi eagle's lips curled up. "Let them kill him. It will be difficult to go against the public's anger. Besides, there is an ancient saying, the hearts of the people come first. If we can win the hearts of the people, what is a mere Tang Lan's head worth? Wait until they kill Tang Lan, then you can go and steal his head." "Yes, I understand." Tang Lan die. Tang Lan's die. No one knew who suddenly shouted this, but more and more people followed suit. Tang Lan's consciousness was already beginning to fade. He forced himself to open his eyes and looked at the angry faces before him. Suddenly, he laughed and used his sword to support his body as he stood up. Looking at the commoners, he said, "The late Emperor, Qin Jin, once said, 'The hearts of the people come first.' Qin Jin was a benevolent person and did not want to kill too much. Now I, Tang Lan, finally understand this principle. So, the late Emperor, Qin Jin, was the true wise ruler. If not for Qin Yi, how could the late emperor have been killed? You people of Iha were originally citizens of the empire. Now that you want me to die, I will grant your wish. If I can give you a lifetime of glory, then I will offer my head to you. My granddaughter, Tang Xiaoxi, is just outside the city. I hope she won't start a massacre on you trash. Ha! Whoosh! The saber slashed across Tang Lan's throat, leaving a long gash. Blood immediately spurted out. Your Highness? Your Highness! The old General Tang Bai's entire body trembled. Only now did he come to his senses. He hurriedly hugged Tang Lan's body and desperately pressed his palm against Tang Lan's neck. He shouted, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?" Tang Lan's entire body convulsed as blood gushed out of his mouth. He wanted to say something, but no words came out. He could only use his hands to grab onto Tang Bai's shoulder armor. A few seconds later, his hands fell to the ground, and his life force was completely drained away. "Your Highness!" Tang Bai raised his head and shouted at the top of his lungs. Outside the 100 Ridge City, Tang Xiaoxi, who was galloping on her horse, could already see the billowing clouds in the 100-ridge city. Suddenly, her heart skipped a beat, and she even found it hard to breathe. She clutched her chest and said, "Tangjin, lead the army outside the city and wait for my news. I'll enter the city first, don't act rashly." The flag of the Iha nation was fluttering on the city walls, which meant that the city had fallen. "Princess, don't be rash," Tangjin hurriedly said. But how could Tang Xiaoxi listen to his advice? She galloped to the foot of the city, and the Iha nation's guards on the city wall immediately shouted, "Men, release the arrows." Tens of thousands of arrows shot out at the same time, and the flames grew brighter. Tang Xiaoxi had already entered her nine-tailed transformation state. She suddenly jumped off the horse's back, and the fire god's seal in her palm landed on the city gate. It melted the iron and flew in. Behind her, the pitiful snow pear warhorse was directly shot into a hedgehog, and it died miserably at the foot of the city. "It's Tang Xiaoxi, block her?" The people in the city shouted loudly. But at this moment, Tang Xiaoxi's spiritual sense could clearly sense that Tang Lan's life force was rapidly disappearing. Her heart was in a mess, and she exploded with a terrifying power. Flames swept out, and instantly, 3 Heaven Realm experts from the 7 world palaces were burned to ashes. In the air, the Holy King Realm powerful being, Han Jun, let loose an enraged roar, and a frost-covered palm descended from the sky. "Do you think you can do whatever you want in the Empire? Tang Xiaoxi, hand over your life." Flames rose into the sky, and when Tang Xiaoxi raised her head, Han Jun's heart shuddered involuntarily. There was no emotion in her beautiful golden eyes, and in the next instant, flames engulfed Han Jun. Tang Xiaoxi's fire god's seal crashed heavily into Han Jun's abdomen. Bam! Monarch battle flames erupted, but Han Jun was only injured, not killed. The battle armor on his abdomen quickly reformed, and an extremely tough layer of frost appeared over his skin. This was also one of the main reasons why he was able to withstand Tang Xiaoxi's attack. "Heh, you want to kill me?" Han Jun abruptly unleashed a palm strike toward Tang Xiaoxi's back. However, in that instant, a cold smile flashed through Tang Xiaoxi's golden eyes. All of a sudden, she slowly spread open her fingers, and a series of crimson energy claws extended from her fingernails. Tang Xiaoxi abruptly rushed forward, and all 5 of her crimson claws pierced into Han Jun's abdomen before abruptly pulling them apart. Han Jun let loose a howl of anguish as he crashed heavily into the ground in the distance, and he died in the blink of an eye. A powerful being of the Holy King realm had been defeated by Tang Xiaoxi. "Grandfather," a hint of heartache flashed through Tang Xiaoxi's twisted face, and she rushed toward the crowd in the distance like a ball of flames. She abruptly burst through the crowd, only to discover Tang Lan lying on the ground, as well as a completely incapacitated tailor who was using a pair of scissors to slit his throat. Tang Bai had also died in battle. Tears streamed down Tang Xiaoxi's face, and she felt as if she had fallen into an abyss. She slowly walked over and knelt beside Tang Lan's body, sobbing loudly. "Grandfather? Grandfather? Xiao Shi is unfilial, it's all Xiao Shi's unfilial." Wisps of golden smoke swirled around Tang Xiaoxi, as if forming a force field. She slowly raised her arm, and a golden light shot out, directly piercing through the tailor's heart. His eyes widened in disbelief, unable to believe that this beautiful young lady would suddenly kill him. "Tang Lan's head is worth 20 million Jin coins. Cut off Tang Lan's head and you will be rewarded with a title of 10,000 marquis. Go! If you want to become a high-ranking official, now is the time." The surrounding crowd continued to clamor, but as Tang Xiaoxi knelt beside Tang Lan's body, the crowd was somewhat fearful. However, no matter how fearful they were, she was just a young lady, so what could she do? As a result, the crowd surged forward. The citizens of Iha country seemed to have lost their minds, and their eyes were filled with the desire for power. They all knew that as long as they killed the young lady in front of them, they would obtain supreme status. Not only the mercenaries and hunters wanted to kill her, but even the women carrying egg baskets and green onions also wanted to fish in troubled waters. "Chop off Tang Lan's head." Young lady, go away, this has nothing to do with you. Yes, young lady, go away, we don't want to kill you. The crowd moved closer and closer, and the nearest hoe was less than a meter away from Tang Xiaoxi's head. Tang Xiaoxi raised her delicate and beautiful face, looking at the crowd blankly and murmured, "Grandfather is already dead, why do you still want to chop off his head? Because his head is worth a lot of money. Go away. Otherwise, don't blame us for making a move." Tang Xiaoxi suddenly laughed, looking up at the sky, laughing especially sinisterly, and her beautiful face twisted again. A touch of golden light seeped into her eyes, and the 9 flame tails behind her swayed slowly. She said softly, "If you want to die, then come at me, go. Kill this ungrateful little bitch. Kill her." The crowd waved their weapons and rushed forward, but Tang Xiaoxi suddenly opened her palm, and suddenly a huge blood-red claw swept across, almost dismembering the group of people in front of her. Blood splattered all over the ground, and also on Tang Xiaoxi, but she seemed to be unable to feel it. What she wanted to do was kill whoever dared to touch Tang Lan's body. She's not human. She's a demon. Kill the demon. Slay the demon. The crowd continued to surge forward, and it was unknown how many people dared to rush toward Tang Xiaoxi. The sound of bodies shattering rose one after another. Tang Xiaoxi raised her palm, and the 9-tailed claws were filled with divine power. No matter how many people came, they must die. She was lost. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi was lost in the slaughter, and her arms kept moving, turning the crowd into a sea of corpses. Blood filled the Bailing city, and soon, the news spread through the streets and alleys. Everyone knew that a demon had appeared in the Bailing city and was killing people. But humans were like this, and the stranger they were, the more people rushed toward where Tang Xiaoxi was. "What happened to me?" Yihai had already turned into a sea of blood. Tang Xiaoxi dejectedly knelt in the sea of blood, hugging her head and crying bitterly, "I killed many innocent people. I am a bad woman." The voice sounded again. "They are just a group of lowly people who want to use your grandfather to exchange for fame and status. They all deserve to be killed, and you don't have to blame yourself. Tang Xiaoxi, you are a god, and they are humans. These lowly humans were originally your slaves, and it doesn't matter if you kill them. More blood can make you stronger." "No." Tang Xiaoxi shook her head quickly, and said while crying, "I don't want to kill people. I don't want to be a bad woman. Do you have a choice?" The bewitching 9-tailed figure stepped out of the Yihai and laughed. "If you don't kill them, they will cut off Tang Lan's head. Do you want to see that?" "No, Grandpa can't be beheaded." Tang Xiaoxi cried bitterly, "No, then let's kill. Isn't that what you want?" Tang Xiaoxi raised her head again, and her eyes were filled with a merciless golden light. Chapter 611. Bai Ling City has fallen. The 7 Seas King has committed suicide. When he said this, Zheng Yifan's expression was very calm, as if he had already expected all of this to happen. In the tent, only Luo Exin, Wei Chou, and the others were shocked. "What about Xiangyu?" Qin Yin asked. The messenger cupped his fists and said, "Marquis Pingnan has already seized Sword Pavilion, but he didn't find Qin. Qin Yi seems to have sneaked into the forest to the east of Sword Pavilion to escape." "Is there any other news?" Qin Yin asked softly. Zheng Yifan said, "Your Highness, Long Qianlin has led 200,000 troops to Lingnan province. There are 3 possible routes he could choose. One is to go to Bailing City, another is to Sword Pavilion, and the last is to go to the forest to find Qin Yi. No matter which route he takes, we can't act rashly. Long Qianlin's 200,000 troops aren't that easy to deal with." "I understand." At this moment, the messenger said hesitantly, "Your Highness, there's another news from Yushu." "What news?" "Princess She has led 5,000 elite troops to attack Bailing City to protect the 7 Seas King. Just yesterday, Princess She entered Bailing City alone to protect Tang Lan's body. We don't know the situation until now." "What?" Qin Yin couldn't help but stand up. She felt a sudden pain in her chest and said, "Shao Shi, If she saw Tang Lon? 10,000 troops, follow me to Sword Pavilion to Bai Ling City. What? Su Muyun was stunned and said with an intense expression, Xiao Yin, you can't. Bai Ling City has already fallen into the hands of Iha country. Luo Lan and Ouyang Yen, these two strong enemies, haven't made any moves yet. We can't act rashly. If you go to Bai Ling City rashly, it's no different from throwing your life away. No, I want to go to Bai Ling City. Qin Yin's eyes were red as if she was about to cry. I will pay for the sins I have committed. I can't let Xiao Shi take the punishment for me. No one should try to persuade me. This is an order. Big brother you, lead the Longdan army camp and stay here to block the Qianfeng army. Is that all right? Lin Muyu nodded. Her heart was filled with mixed feelings as she said, we must bring Xiao Shi back safely. Also, the advance party of the demon race has already begun to attack Duphe province. Zheng Yifan cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, this old official thinks that we should send troops to reinforce Duphe province first. Your Highness shouldn't abandon such a huge Duphe province for Princess Shi. Stop it. Qin Yin raised her voice and said, I will never let Xiao Shi down. That's it. Send your troops and follow me. If you don't want to, I will go alone. Your Highness. Su Muyun muttered, I shall follow you. N. On the 26th day of the second month in the year 7736 of the Empire calendar, after Qin Yin's 10,000-strong army passed through the Sword Garret, the old general Su Muyun fell seriously ill from a cold. That night, the cold wind howled. It was rare for a spring night to be so cold. Inside the tent, the candlelight flickered. Su Muyun's old face was heartbreaking under the candlelight. Qin Yin sat at the side with red eyes. She held Su Muyun's hand, tears streaming down her face. It's a pity. Su Yu isn't here. Su Muyun coughed violently and said, I seem to have seen a scene from 20 years ago. I saw Su Qin, Su Yu, and Xiao Yin's mother, Su Yun. They are all still here. I saw the Emperor Qin Jin's favor descend upon the Su family. I saw the day you were born. Grandfather, stop it. Qin Yin's tears fell like rain. No, let me say it. If I don't say it now, I won't have the chance to say it in the future. Su Muyun held Qin Yin's hand tightly and said with a dejected expression, I'm not a good grandfather. For the sake of the Su family, I've done many things that let the Qin family down. Xiao Yin, don't blame grandfather. As the saying goes, when a man is about to die, his words are kind, and when a bird is about to die, its cry is sorrowful. Grandfather, cough, cough, cough. Grandfather has worked hard in this life so that the Su family can rise again, so that the Su family can continue to prosper. But, the more I walk down this path, the darker it gets. I can't see the end, and I can't see hope. Only now, grandfather finally understands, cough, cough, cough. Su Muyun coughed out a pool of blood and panted heavily. He was on the verge of breaking down. After resting for a while, he continued, I finally understand, Xiao Yin, you are my future. You are a descendant of the Su family. Half of the Su family's blood flows through your veins. Why was I so foolish and did so many foolish things? If I had known this would happen, I definitely wouldn't have allowed Qin Jin to head to the fairy lake. I will never be able to repay my mistakes. Qin Yin sobbed and said, Grandfather, don't say it anymore. Xiao Yin knows that grandfather will always be a loyal subject of the Cloud Middle Province. Su Muyun, you will always be. I know it, and father definitely knows it too. No, there is no such thing as a loyal subject in this world. Su Muyun's smile was extremely miserable. He said, I hate Qin Jin for wanting to kill Su Qin so ruthlessly. That was my only son. Can you forgive grandfather? Yes, I can. Qin Yin said as she sobbed. All right, Luo Exin, come here. Luo Exin walked to the bed and knelt on the ground. Her eyes were red. Father. Luo Exin, my son. Su Muyun panted heavily. Swear here that you will forever be loyal to the Qin family and to the empire. Yes, Luo Exin swears that I will forever be loyal to the Qin family and to the empire. Good, Su Muyun revealed a gratified smile, but this smile also slowly froze on his face. Su Muyun died of illness. At this point, the two most powerful subjects of the Qin Empire, Tang Lan had committed suicide and Su Muyun had died of a cold during the march. The era of the two dukes ruling the Qin Empire had finally come to an end. At noon on the 27th day of the second month of the empire's calendar, Qin Yin met up with Xiang Yu. A total of 60,000 soldiers arrived outside Bailing City. They met up with Tang Jin's 5,000 men who had been attacking the city for a long time. Your Highness. Tang Jin dismounted and walked on the muddy road outside the city. He cupped his fists and said, Bailing City is very sturdy. The 7 world palaces have sent reinforcements. Now, in addition to the 50,000 men gathered by the northern Qi prefecture, we have not been able to attack for a long time. What should we do? Is there Xiao Yin's Xiaoxi? Not at the moment, but I heard that Princess She killed many people in the city. Many people? I will enter the city first. You guys continue to attack, Qin Yin said lightly. Luo Exin hurriedly said, No, wait, Your Highness. It is too dangerous for you to enter the city alone. No, I have no other choice. Qin Yin slowly untied the belt of the Empress's cloak and threw the luxurious cloak into the mud. She left behind her sword and charged forward with a light shout. With a bang, under the impact of Qin Yin's divine power, a crack appeared in the air. She disappeared in an instant. The god-level expert's ability to shatter the void shocked Xiang Yu, Luo Exin, Tang Jin, and the others. Sush. When she reappeared, she was already in the city. However, what greeted her eyes were piles of corpses. Flies were flying around, and her nostrils were filled with the strong smell of blood. Qin Yin couldn't help but feel a pain in her heart. She flew through the air and saw that the street was already filled with corpses. There were civilians and soldiers. Only God knew how many people Tang Xiaoxi had killed. She walked for a full 5 kilometers and saw corpses piled up everywhere. In the distance, tyrannical forces rose and fell. There, a beautiful demon fox was waving her arms, and the blood-red claws that were several meters long tore the mercenaries' bodies into pieces. Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth, and a pair of exquisite fangs pierced into the neck of a mercenary, ruthlessly tearing off a piece of flesh. She spat it out, and at the same time, she also sensed the arrival of an expert. She raised her head, and her golden eyes looked at Qin Yin, who was standing in the air. Suddenly, the corners of her mouth rose, and she laughed. Qin Yin, are you here to see a joke? Xiaoxi, Qin Yin was dumbfounded. She instantly felt as if a knife was twisting in her heart. I didn't, really? Tang Xiaoxi burst into laughter. Her laughter was extremely ferocious, and her eyes were filled with wildness as she said, You asked my grandfather to bring only one person to guard Bailing City. How vicious is it to kill someone with a borrowed knife? Qin Yin, you despicable woman. How much better are you than me now? Are you going to kill me? Come on, I heard that your cultivation has improved a lot. Let me see. The Tang Xiaoxi in front of her was obviously not the Tang Xiaoxi anymore. Xiaoxi don't? Qin Yin was trembling all over. Come on. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly shouted, and the flames on her body surged. She entered the state of transformation. She jumped up, and her blood-red claws came down heavily from the air. Qin Yin subconsciously gathered her strength, and a celestial dragon crystal was placed in front of her chest. Bang! The two divine powers collided. Tang Xiaoxi's blood-red claws were no match for the celestial dragon crystal and were broken. However, this was just a body of energy. She waved her arms and gathered her claws again. She attacked crazily. Did you see my grandfather's body? Is this what you want? Tang Xiaoxi roared. She launched the God's Seal and the God's Kill Seal at the same time. Boom boom. The two attacks were completely blocked by the protective wall of the celestial dragon crystal. Through the broken pieces of energy, Qin Yin looked at Tang Xiaoxi with tears in her eyes. She said, Xiaoxi, come back. Tang Xiaoxi's golden eyes were full of ruthlessness and sarcasm. She said, "You used all your tricks to kill my grandfather. Do you think a bad woman like you deserves Lin Muyu? Do you?" "I don't deserve." Qin Yin burst into tears. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly got close to Qin Yin. Her blood-red claws pierced through Qin Yin's chest. Blood flowed down her fingers. However, the protective power of the celestial dragon crystal was extremely strong. With 7 celestial dragon crystals whirling around them at the same time, Tang Xiaoxi would not be able to resist it. However, Qin Yin gently loosened her grip, and the celestial dragon crystals scattered. "But, are you showing mercy to me?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled ferociously. She suddenly pulled out her claws and pierced them into Qin Yin's chest again. She laughed and said, "Can this godhead of yours protect you?" "Stop, little she." Sparkling and translucent tears rolled down Qin Yin's cheeks. She endured the immense pain and said, "We promised that we would never break our promise. Little she, don't stop. It hurts so much." Tang Xiaoxi's golden eyes were full of mockery. "Break, got it." Buzz, buzz, buzz. Qin Yin's overgod lattice flew out of her EC and gathered between the two of them. It shone with a dazzling golden light, but it was buzzing and trembling. With the death of its master, this overgod lattice was about to self-destruct. Shao Shi, Qin Yin stretched out her bloodied palm and gently caressed Tang Xiaoxi's face. "Come back quickly, this is not the real you. In the future, I can no longer accompany Ayu. You have to love him together with my love." Tang Xiaoxi said. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The godhead spun madly and shattered. The self-destruction had begun. At that moment, the golden light in Tang Xiaoxi's eyes finally dimmed. She suddenly woke up and saw her finger piercing Qin Yin's heart. Instantly, Tang Xiaoxi burst into tears. Shao Yinai, swoosh. Before dying, the celestial dragon crystal in Qin Yin's hand flickered and turned into a crystal pillar that protected Tang Xiaoxi. At that moment, the godhead finally exploded. Tang Xiaoxi saw a scene that she would never forget for the rest of her life. Qin Yin's body was instantly smashed by the godhead's explosion. However, the celestial dragon crystal that was formed from the last bit of her strength lingered around Tang Xiaoxi. Bang! A massive explosion rang out. The power of the overgod sparks explosion was unimaginable. In the blink of an eye, the ground was reduced to dust, and it was as if the end of the world had come. Everything was destroyed, and a blood-red abyss appeared in the ground. Lightning descended from the sky. Standing by the sand table, Lin Muyu suddenly felt a tearing pain in her heart. She couldn't help but kneel on the ground. Her eyes blurred and tears flowed down her cheeks. The second volume, Fireworks, ended. Riches and glory in life are like fireworks, fleeting clouds and smoke. Qin Yin died for Tang Xiaoxi. No one knows if it was worth it or not. We are the same. After experiencing it, we feel that it was wrong. However, some mistakes are the most beautiful memories. At the most wrong time, we always meet the right person. There is no need to hate. All we can do is be grateful and look forward to the future. Next, I will enter the third volume, 3 Kings Rule the World. I hope everyone likes the spiritual cultivation realm. This is a novel written by Yi Zihua with great effort. Chapter 612. The ground to the north of the 100-ridge city continued to collapse, and fiery red magma rose from below. Strands of golden holy light lingered in the surroundings. 20 miles of the 100-ridge city had collapsed, and the northern part of the 100-ridge city had completely turned into a living hell. In the sky, flames soared into the sky. Tang Xiaoxi held her head and let out a heart-wrenching scream. Killing Qin Yin with her own hands was an unimaginable pain to her. She would rather be the one killed instead. Swoosh! A strand of blood-red light seeped out of Tang Xiaoxi's eye and condensed into a human body. Just as she was about to leave, Tang Xiaoxi suddenly opened her eyes and stared at her with a pair of golden eyes full of killing intent. Bastard, do you still want to leave? She opened her palm, and a fiery fox claw suddenly caught Yaoji, who was trying to escape. Yaoji was just a demon with a spiritual body. Originally, her body could not be controlled by the power of the mortal world. However, at this time, there were strands of golden flame divine power flowing between Tang Xiaoxi's fingers. The divine power could capture everything in the world, including spiritual bodies. For a moment, Yaoji kept screaming, and her body quickly curled up in Tang Xiaoxi's palm. God Emperor, save me! Saint Master, save me! Yaoji screamed at the top of her lungs. Bang! Blood splashed. Tang Xiaoxi turned into a nine-tailed fox and squeezed Yaoji's body into a pile of flesh and blood. Looking up, she saw two people standing in the sky. They were the Devil Emperor and the Saint Master of the Devil Clan. At this time, the Devil Emperor and the Saint Master were surrounded by Master Devil power. They were ready to take action as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Tang Xiaoxi understood everything in an instant. She lowered her head and cried silently. She murmured, "It's you who deliberately made me kill Xiao Yin and used this despicable spiritual body to bewitch my heart. Is it you?" The Devil Emperor stared at Tang Xiaoxi and said, "Yes, it's us." The Demon King stared at Tang Xiaoxi and said, "That's right, it's us. But you have to understand our painstaking efforts. Nine-tailed, you are a monster, and our divine race is called the demon race by the humans. That's right, we all have a demonic nature. You and I are a family. Now that the human race is becoming stronger, the divine race needs your strength, and you also need the protection of the divine race. You have no choice. Nine-tailed Tang Xiaoxi, you belong to the divine race. In your dreams." Tang Xiaoxi suddenly raised her head, her golden eyes filled with ruthlessness. Flame divine powers suddenly burst forth, as if a scorching sun had bloomed in the sky. Arg! The Devil Emperor and the Saint Master were directly impacted by the divine power. They let out miserable cries. When they opened their eyes, Tang Xiaoxi was already in front of the Saint Master. Her sharp claws swept across. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Demonic shadows flew past and condensed in the palm of the Saint Master. It was like a blood-red demonic plate. He shouted angrily, "5 demons combination, wheel of blood." Bang! The sharp claws of the 9 tails pierced through the wheel of blood and stabbed into the abdomen of the Saint Master. At the same time, the armor of the wheel of blood twisted one of Tang Xiaoxi's arms into a bloody mess. She was going all out. "Your Majesty," the Saint Master howled miserably. He covered his abdomen and retreated in the air. He shouted, "She's crazy. Stop her." The Devil Emperor stood high in the sky. He put his palms together. Demonic seals revolved around his palms. He shouted, "Demonic binding seal." The blood-red demonic binding seal revolved around Tang Xiaoxi. It tightened inch by inch, making it impossible for her to move. These demonic binding seals were crystallized from divine power. Tang Xiaoxi's 9-tailed avatar was suddenly very strong. However, the Devil Emperor and the Saint Master working together was even stronger. Arg! Tang Xiaoxi roared crazily. The divine power of fire turned into sharp arrows that shot in all directions. The Saint Master and the Devil Emperor were instantly injured. The Tang Xiaoxi in front of them was like a beautiful beast that had gone mad. If they wanted to capture her, they would have to pay the price in blood. "Saint Master!" The Devil Emperor's arms and abdomen were pierced by the flames. He could not help but roar, "What are you waiting for? Use the 6 demons combination to knock her out. Otherwise, we will all die here." The Sage Master gritted his teeth. The higher level of the 5 demons' harmonious divine art was the 6 demons' harmonious divine art. However, every time he used the 6 demons' harmonious divine art, his lifespan would be reduced by 20%. Although gods were immortal, lifespan represented power. The price to pay was that every time he used the 6 demons' harmonious divine art, his cultivation would be greatly reduced. "Come on!" The Saint Master roared crazily. Countless demonic shadows flew out of his body and gathered in his palms. He brazenly attacked Tang Xiaoxi's back. Bang! Poor Tang Xiaoxi's back was splattered with blood. The back of her head was instantly hit by the Saint Master's palm. Suddenly, her eye was blurred, and she slowly fell into a deep sleep. Perhaps, Tang Xiaoxi did not want to struggle. She would rather sleep and never wake up. She would never have to face the cruel fact that she had killed Qin Yin. The Saint Master panted fiercely. Because he had used too much demonic power, 2 fangs grew out of his mouth. He looked back at the Nephilim Emperor coldly and said, "Your Majesty, your subordinate is done." The Nephilim Emperor raised his palm gently, and a space crack opened behind him. He glanced at Tang Xiaoxi and said, "Which Tang Xiaoxi, you are the queen of the Protoss. Now, come home with us." The light flashed and disappeared as if nothing had happened. 20 miles away, the armies of Xiangyu, Luo Xian, and Tangjin were in a mess. Even after retreating for 10 miles, they could not completely avoid this catastrophe. Nearly 10,000 soldiers died in the blood-red abyss, but no one knew what happened. What happened? Tangjin held the reins of his war horse, his face ashen. Luo Xian trembled all over, her face full of pain, and said, "Her Highness Yin, her aura disappeared. How is this possible?" Tangjin said in a low voice, "Didn't Her Highness step into the divine state? How is this possible?" Xiang Yu's cultivation was close to that of a god, and he could sense the divine power around him the best. With a cold gaze, he said, "I'm afraid the empire is going to change. After the death of Duke Lan and Duke Yun, Her Highness the Empress seems to be in danger. Her Highness is a god, but her divine aura disappeared completely. There is only one possibility. Her godhead has been destroyed." Godhead destroyed? What does this mean? Tangjin murmured. Luo Xian clenched her fist in pain and said, "Her Highness Yin is dead." Tangjin's nose turned sour, and tears almost fell from his eyes. "What should we do? What should we do now? Where is Princess Shi?" Princess Shi's aura disappeared too. "I'm afraid," Xiang Yu looked into the distance with a deep gaze. "I think you all saw it too. It was Princess Shi who killed Her Highness. She killed the Empress." "Impossible. This is impossible." Tangjin shook his head repeatedly, and suddenly fell from his war horse to the ground. Luo Xian held her spear and said, "For now, we must control this news. No one can leak it out. Her Highness is not dead. Otherwise, the world will be in chaos." Xiang Yu nodded. "That's right. The feudal lords have long been restless. If this news gets out, I'm afraid the world will really be in chaos." Luo Xian said, "I'll write a letter to Lin Muyu to inform him of this news." Yes, a cold wind blew past and everyone's heart was chilled. 7 Customs House. Banquet. Feng Jixing entered the banquet hall with only a windcutter and a few dozen imperial guards. He knew that this banquet wouldn't be peaceful, and it was destined to be. "General Feng, it's been a long time." Tang Lu led Tang Su and the other Tang generals over. The burn on his face had healed a lot, and he cupped his fists with a smile. "I didn't expect General Feng to grace the 7 seas with your presence. It's really flattering." Feng Jixing smiled faintly. "Young Lord Tang Lu, have you received the news? Duke Lan has already committed suicide in 100 Ridge City, and Tang Xiaoxi has also entered 100 Ridge City. Her fate is unknown." Tang Lu's face was actually full of calmness as he nodded. "I understand." Duke Lan was killed by the traitors of the Iha nation, but young lord is stationed here. What is the meaning of this? Why don't you follow me to Lingnan and recover the lost land of the empire? Is that so? Tang Lu couldn't help but sneer. "Feng Jixing, your words are so convincing, but do you know why my grandfather died? Wasn't it because your empress, Qin Yin, exhausted all her schemes and sent my grandfather to his death? My grandfather died in the hands of the empire, not the Iha nation." Men closed the door. Clang. The iron door suddenly closed, and layers of iron chains locked the iron door bolt. Tang Lu tilted his head and looked at Feng Jixing. He smiled. "Grandfather's death will be exchanged for the Tang clan's achievements. Feng Jixing, you still don't know that death is at hand? Is that so?" Feng Jixing laughed loudly. "Young Lord Tang Lu, if you say it like this, Then I, Feng Jixing, will not be ashamed to face Princess Shi no matter what I do. Clang! The wind cutter was already unsheathed. Feng Jixing's figure flashed like the wind, and the long blade left a bloody mark on Tang Lu's neck. In the next moment, Tang Lu's head flew off. Blood splattered, and everyone was stunned. No one expected that Feng Jixing would actually dare to make a move in the hall alone. Feng Jixing. Just as Tang Su was about to speak, Feng Jixing's wind cutter had already slashed over with the king's fighting flame. Tang Su hastily pulled out his long sword to parry, but the disparity in strength was too great. Feng Jixing bellowed, and the wind cutter slashed out a storm. It directly minced Tang Su's body into pieces along with the bodies of the few generals behind him. Stepping on the stone floor, Feng Jixing leaped up. He stepped on the mysterious power of the law of wind and walked step by step toward the host seat. Turning around to look at the group of Tang clan's generals who were at daggers drawn, Feng Jixing shook his palm, and the imperial edict glowed. He said, Empress Qin Yin has decreed that all the generals in the Seven Seas province must listen to me, Feng Jixing, or they will be killed without mercy. You can choose to be loyal to the Tang clan, but the result will be the execution of your entire clan. Now, those who are willing to listen to me, Feng Jixing, step back. Those who want to be loyal to Tang Lu, sick. Everyone was dumbstruck. After a long time, kill. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the door to the banquet hall opened with a creak. Feng Jixing's white robe was stained with blood. His wind cutter slowly dragged along the floor. Behind him, the grayish-brown carpet was already stained with blood. A group of Tang clan's generals were lying on the floor in disorder. They had already turned into corpses, and the remaining people followed Feng Jixing out with a respectful expression. Lightly waving his arm, Feng Jixing said indifferently, Everyone listen to my orders. The tiger amulets of the generals I killed will be distributed to all of you. From today onwards, all of you are Her Highness the Empress's men. All of you are important generals of the empire. Tomorrow morning, the army will come out and attack Iha Nation. Yes, General Feng. Chapter 613. On the 27th day of the second month, in the dense forest of East Mountain in Lingnan Province, the majestic army of the empire stopped at the foot of the mountain. Long Qianlin rode up the mountain to welcome Qin. After the crushing defeat at Songlin Valley, Qin Yi's hair had turned white as if it was covered with a layer of frost. Long Qianlin dismounted and knelt on the ground. I came late, please forgive me, Commander. Commander Long, please rise. Qin Yi personally helped Long Qianlin up. His eyes were filled with gratitude. Commander Long has brought 200,000 men, leaving such a strong force for our Iha country. It is a great merit. Long Qianlin looked up at Qin Yi. Commander, has Marshal Ji Yao really surrendered to the enemy? Qin Yi nodded. I misjudged Ji Yao. He is such a cowardly person. Commander Long, do you know what happened at Bailing City? I know. Long Qianlin said in a deep voice. Qin Yin has already stepped into the divine state. When she fought with Tang Xiaoxi in the sky above the 100-ridge city, the explosion of power formed a blood-red abyss. The abyss is so deep that you can't see its bottom. It's called the Crimson Abyss. Commander, the Crimson Abyss is still expanding. I'm afraid that the 100-ridge city can no longer be the capital. Qin Yi murmured, Yes, I have the same thought. According to Commander Long, what do you think we should do? Long Qianlin said, Qianfeng's army is in a stalemate with Lin Muyu's army outside Songlin Valley. They have suffered great losses. The demonic race's food supplies are cut off. They will definitely retreat soon. At that time, Lin Muyu will meet up with Xiang Yu, Tang Jin, Luo Xin and the others. They have at least 300,000 soldiers. Their morale is high, and they have the support of the mysterious cannons. It will be hard for us to win head-on. In my opinion, why don't we go around by Ling City, head for Yu City, and seek help from Venerable Luo Lan of the Seven World Palaces? Commander Long, are you going to give up Lingnan Province? Lingnan Province was Qin Yi's fief. He naturally wasn't willing to give it up so easily. Long Qianlin then said, There is no longer any danger in Lingnan Province to defend. Once Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and Xiang Yu's armies arrive, it will be a flat plain, and with the power of the heavy artillery, we will not be able to fight against them. But Clear Mountain Province and Ling Kong Province have high mountains as a barrier, so it would not be easy for them to attack. We must retreat in order to advance and then send a letter to Marshal Ding Shi in Xi'an City. With the east and west coordinating, we will be ready to counterattack the Empire's army. All right, we'll do as Commander Long says. In the evening, the mighty army of Iha country left the forest and headed straight for Mingshan Province. In the southernmost part of Lingnan Province, surrounded by mountains, stood a magnificent palace. This was the Seven-World Palace, Luo Lan's residence in the mortal world. It was also one of the most luxurious palaces in this world. Immortal Sovereign. A disciple knelt respectfully on a praying mat and said, "Master Han Jun has died for his country." What? Han Jun is dead? Luo Lan's eyes were cold as she asked, "Are you sure?" "Very sure. He was killed by Tang Xiaoxi in her nine-tailed form, but..." The disciple's lips curled into a smile. "I have good news for you, Immortal Sovereign." Speak. Tang Xiaoxi vented her anger on Qin Yin and killed Qin Yin. Half of Bai Ling City was destroyed, and Tang Xiaoxi most likely died in this disaster. Furthermore, according to our information, Qin Yin stepped into the immortal state from the Holy King realm, and the godhead she condensed was extremely powerful. It should be the godhead of heaven's will as recorded in the ancient books. When Qin Yin died, the blood abyss turned into a sea of lava, and Qin Yin's power crystallized from the lava. These crystallized golden crystals filled with spiritual energy, and if you can obtain these crystals for cultivation, you should be able to absorb a portion of the Overgod's power. Is that so? Luo Lan couldn't help but stand up. Is what you said true? Absolutely. Good. Disciples, follow me to the blood abyss. I want to see the place where Qin Yin's Overgod godhead fell. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the outskirts of the 100-ridge city. Dozens of miles of the blood abyss were evaporating with scorching power. From afar, it looked like a living hell. The people of the 100-ridge city were scrambling to escape. Everyone knew that the blood abyss was still expanding. If they didn't leave, it would be equivalent to waiting for death. Thud, thud, thud. Amidst the galloping of a horse, a rider galloped over. When he saw the blood abyss, Lin Muyu felt a lump in his throat, and tears rolled down his cheeks. He could feel the energy pervading the blood abyss. It was the energy of Qin Yin's firmament dragon crystal. Xiao Yin. He dismounted from the horse and knelt at the edge of the blood abyss in a daze. He looked into the depths of the abyss, trembling all over. He curled up there like a wounded beast, howling and crying. No one knew Qin Yin's strength better than Lin Muyu. Given Qin Yin's current strength, it was impossible for her to be killed by Tang Xiaoxi. The only explanation was that Qin Yin would rather be killed by Tang Xiaoxi than hurt Tang Xiaoxi with her own strength. However, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi both died in the blood abyss in the end. Lin Muyu howled and cried like a mad beast. His strength burst forth without any concealment, turning into a strong airflow that swept in all directions. Wave after wave of power impacted the fertile land. There were faint thunders in the sky, and even the earth was slowly trembling in response to Lin Muyu's strength. He had thought that he was the happiest person in the world with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. However, at this moment, Lin Muyu had lost everything. There was only despair left in his heart. "Sir." Wei Chou looked at Lin Muyu from afar. His nose felt a lump in his throat, and tears rolled down his cheeks. Sidu Shui was sobbing uncontrollably. While wiping her tears, she asked Citizen, "Brother, tell me, why did this happen? Commander is such a good person. Why did God treat him like this?" Sidu Sen was silent. After a while, he said, "There are many things in the world. Who can say for sure?" At this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly stood up and jumped into the blood abyss. "Sir." Sidu Shui was scared out of her wits. Sidu Sen and Wei Chou hurriedly flew forward. However, they only saw the rolling golden flames in the blood abyss and the blood-red lava. They could no longer see Lin Muyu's figure. Why? Situ Shue sat at the edge of the abyss and couldn't help but wail. Situ Sun slowly knelt down on one knee and lowered his proud head. Lin Muyu, you will always be the glory of the empire. I, Xin, am honored to be your subordinate. Wei Chou stood there dumbfounded. He didn't move an inch. It was as if the sky had collapsed. The playful Lin Muyu, the resourceful Longdan army camp commander, the grand deacon Lin Muyu of the temple, and the outstanding Lin Muyu of the Blood Abyss had died just like that. The power in the Blood Abyss was surging. How many people could survive after jumping into it? Puff! There was a burning pain all over his body. Lin Muyu swam in the boiling lava. His robe was instantly burned, leaving only the armor and weapons protected by the divine seal. His face was full of fatigue and embarrassment, but more than that, he was disheartened. What could be more painful than losing Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi at the same time? The blood in his Yi was getting thicker and thicker, almost suffocating him. In this way, he urged Fuxi's divine power to resist the erosion of the blood abyss. Lin Muyu swam to the place where Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi both died. In front of him, Qin Yin's breath was getting thicker and thicker. Tears flowed down uncontrollably, splashing into the lava. With a puff, they instantly evaporated, bringing with them an astringent air current that assaulted her eyes. When Lin Muyu arrived there, he saw a black rock standing up from the blood abyss. Around it there was a golden luster. That should be the essence of Qin Yin's godhead, right? Xiao Yin. Lin Muyu stretched out his palm, wanting to hold it, but the essence of the godhead instantly shattered into nothingness, turning into rays of golden light and disappearing into the air. Xiao Yin. Lin Muyu knelt on the rock, holding the star's sword with one hand. He pierced the blade into the rock to support his body. Soon, the dust in the blood abyss continued to fall, fusing with the rock. Lin Muyu's legs slowly petrified, becoming a part of the rock. He actually chose to petrify himself. Lin Muyu's Yi was in a complete mess. She looked into the sky and let out a heart-wrenching roar. 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch. Big brother, did you see that? Help me, help me. Outside the myriad worlds and stars, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor stood at the edge of the palace in a daze, watching the scene in the Heaven Lake illusory ocean. His eyes reddened and tears almost fell. He clenched his fists and muttered, "Silly boy, why are you so stubborn?" At the side, a beautiful divine-level expert dressed in a long dress said softly, "Demon Emperor. You is your brother. Since you care so much about him, why don't you help him?" "It's not that I don't want to help, but I can't." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor sighed and said, "There is a cycle of reincarnation in life and death. Even gods will die. Moreover, Qin Yin is a god with a god's mandate. Once her god's mandate perishes, she can only escape into reincarnation. No one can save her. Sigh. Then what should we do? This is Yu's destiny, his tribulation, his Tao. If you can see through this tribulation and prove his Tao, he will naturally be able to see through everything. Unfortunately, this silly boy. Xiao, I can't do anything about this. You should pay more attention. If it's possible, go to the mortal world and help me persuade this boy. You have the god's mandate of life. Maybe you can help him." The corner of Xiao's mouth curled up slightly and she said with a faint smile, "Demon Emperor, you said it yourself. This is his Tao. Only he can see through it." Sigh. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor sighed and turned to leave. Xiao smiled and looked at the scene in the mortal world. She said, "You, oh you, Qin Yin's soul should have been destroyed. I can only help you up to this point. Don't give up." 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the crimson abyss, Lin Muyu was covered in dust. He knelt there like a stone statue, holding the stellar sword that had lost its luster. Everything below his chest had become one with the rock. Whoosh! The wind in the air moved and an old figure appeared. It was Qin Han. Looking at Lin Muyu's current state, Qin Han's heart ached. He said softly, "You my child? Why do you have to torture yourself like this?" Lin Muyu knelt on the ground in silence, not saying a word. Qin Han landed on the ground like an immortal and stood in front of him. He said, "Everything in the world has its karma. I know you love Xiao Yin deeply, but it's time to let go of everything. You and Xiao Yin met and knew each other in Lanyan City. This is fate. Xiao Yin was willing to fall in the Crimson Abyss. This is fate. Xiao Yin can let go. Why do you have to be so obsessed? At this time, Lin Muyu finally raised her head and looked at Qin Han. She said softly, "It's not my obsession. It's just that in life, if one doesn't pursue the person they love, then what's the point of living?" Qin Han was silent for a long time. This is your Tao. If you can prove your Tao, you will be able to see the godly state. If you can't see through it, you will make a mistake for the rest of your life. Ancestor is about to ascend to the heavenly realm. Take care of yourself. Chapter 6:14. On the 15th day of the 3rd month, the scorching temperature of the Crimson Abyss finally began to cool down slowly. However, there was still a cloud of smoke rising into the sky. Within the cloud of smoke, beams of golden energy slowly gathered and flew towards Lin Muyu's body as if they were being summoned. They played on his legs, abdomen, and the rocks on the surface of his body. He was still in the state of slow petrification. At this moment, Lin Muyu had almost given up on all cultivation. He only wanted to try his best to collect everything that Qin Yin had left behind in the Crimson Abyss. However, Lin Muyu could only collect the fragments of the celestial dragon crystal. What made him feel that something terrible had finally happened? In the Crimson Abyss, Qin Yin's aura became fainter and fainter as time passed, to the extent that he almost couldn't catch it anymore. Rustle, rustle. The sound of footsteps came from the rock stratum that had solidified not long ago. A group of people walked out from the cloud of smoke. It was Feng Jixing, Qin Yan, Wei Chou, Chu Yao, and the others. They had all arrived. As soon as she saw Lin Muyu's half-petrified appearance, Chu Yao couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat. Hot tears flowed out of her eyes. She walked straight forward and hugged Lin Muyu's already hardened body. She wailed loudly, "You don't be like this." "You." Feng Jixing carried his wind cutter and walked forward with a grave expression. He frowned and said, "You, Her Highness has already passed away. Why do you have to be like this? Besides, the Empire still needs you. The demon race has not been destroyed and the Iha nation is still in the ascendant. With Her Highness gone, the Empire needs someone to take charge. Although Yen has the Qin bloodline, he is still too young and inexperienced. You are the former Emperor's foster son and Her Highness Yin's brother. If you continue to sink like this, the Empire's future will be bleak. Heroes will rise up and we will enter a truly chaotic world." Lin Muyu slowly raised his head and glanced at Feng Jixing with his lifeless eyes. He replied in a very dull voice, "Brother Feng, Xiao Yin was killed by Xiao Shi. I want to stay here with her. I want to do everything I can to find Xiao Yin's spirit." But, Feng Jixing frowned and said, "If Her Highness Ying was still alive, she would definitely not want you to do this. You are the future ruler of the Empire, how can you waste your time here?" "Brother Feng, you don't understand." Lin Muyu took a deep breath. Streams of King's fighting flame appeared on the surface of his body, protecting his life force. He looked at Feng Jixing and then at Chu Yao and said, "From the day I met Xiao Yin, I knew that she was my destiny. I can't escape, I can't hide. I'll leave the Empire's matters to Brother Feng and Yen. I want to find Xiao Yin and bring her back." "Brother," Qin Yan's tears rolled down. He knelt in front of Lin Muyu and said, "Brother, when will you come back? How can General Feng and I support such a large empire? When I find Xiao Yin, I will naturally come back." Lin Muyu slowly closed his eyes and said, "The poisonous air in the blood-red abyss is too strong. You should leave. Don't stay here and let the smoke damage your body." Chu Yao was the chief deacon of the Spirit Medicine Division. She naturally knew that the smoke in the blood-red abyss contained a strong poison. This was also one of the reasons why Lin Muyu's skin was black and his body was gradually turning to stone. But she had no choice. Just as Lin Muyu said, Qin Yin was his destiny. He had to stay here and could only stay here to search for Qin Yin's return. Wei Chou kicked the broken rocks on the ground. He was somewhat angry but didn't dare to explode. He said in a low voice, "Darren, General Feng is leading 300,000 elite troops of Seven Seas City to attack Swift White Province's Sunset City. I am also leading the Longdan Army Camp to attack Sky Province. Soon, His Highness Qin Yen will lead the Imperial Army to Tianshu Province to defend against the advanced troops of the demon race. Darren, I hope you wake up soon." Lin Muyu opened his eyes again and looked at Feng Jixing, saying, "Big brother Feng, there are no remnants of Shao Shi's aura in the blood-red abyss. I suspect that Shao Shi is still alive. Help me find her. I want to ask Shao Shi why she wanted to kill Shao Yin and why she went back on the oath she made back then." "And I will." Feng Jixing took a deep breath and knelt down on one knee towards Lin Muyu. He cupped his fists and said, "Since your Highness Yu is temporarily unwilling to leave, then Feng Jixing and Qin Yen will lead the army to attack Lingnan and recover the lost land. I hope that your Highness Yu will return soon. I will come see you again." "And everyone go." Lin Muyu slowly closed his eyes. The smoke in the blood-red abyss once again slowly fell on his face and eyelashes, speeding up the process of his body turning into stone. Chu Yao stood up and wiped away her tears, saying, "You, I will wait for your return in Lanyan City." Everyone left. Lin Muyu still maintained the posture of kneeling on one knee and holding the sword with one hand. The tattered cloak pieces that were blown away by the strong wind no longer moved. Instead, they fused with the stone and remained frozen in the air. In the surroundings, specks of faint golden starlight danced in the blood-red abyss, but in the end, they were all directed at Lin Muyu's hand that was holding the sword. Rays of golden light lingered around the star's sword and seeped into Lin Muyu's body. A few days later, thunder rumbled in the sky. Rays of golden light flickered in the sky above by Ling City. It was the oracle. No, it was the descent of the god's truth. Only the god of heaven could descend upon the mortal world with such an earth-shattering aura. The dark night sky was brightly illuminated. The smoke in the blood-red abyss was poisonous, so Bai Ling City had almost become a wasteland. People left their homeland one after another, but there were still some scavengers looking at the sky in the middle of the night. They were dumbfounded. They had never seen such a spectacle in their entire lives. A beautiful figure stepped on the clouds and arrived above the blood-red abyss step by step. It was a beautiful fairy. Her face was exquisite and flawless, her skin was white as cream, and her figure was graceful. She could be said to be a peerless beauty. However, the pieces of soft armor that covered her body and the sharp sword in her hand let people know that this fairy was a sharp and unapproachable person. The person who came was Ziyao, the #1 God Emperor under the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Ziyao's beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu, who was slowly petrifying in the blood-red abyss. She couldn't help but feel sad. She floated down and stepped into the blood-red abyss with golden oracle halos. The sound of her exquisite and small battle boots stepping on the rock stratum woke Lin Muyu up. "Who are you?" Lin Muyu asked indifferently. She wasn't moved by Ziyao's powerful God Emperor power. Ziyao held her long sword and walked forward step by step. The surrounding poisonous smoke retreated automatically, as though it was afraid of her. Ziyao stared at Lin Muyu, whose lower body was already wrapped in rocks. She said, Are you really going to petrify in this void?" "I'm not." Lin Muyu slowly opened his palm. Rays of golden power were enshrouded in it. He muttered, "Shao Yin's power will guide me to her. I can definitely do it." Ziyao couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat. She was amused and touched. She said, "Silly boy, do you think the celestial dragon crystal can guide you to Shao Yin?" Who are you exactly?" Ziyao bowed and said, "I'm one of the God Emperors under the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, Fairy Ziyao." "Ziyao," Lin Muyu looked up at her and said, "You're a God Emperor. You must know where Shao Yin is. You must know how to resurrect Shao Yin. Am I right, Ziyao? Tell me." "No." Ziyao shook her head gently and said, "The cycle of life and death is an unchanging law. Even God Emperors can't control it. Back then, The Demon Emperor was able to resurrect you because he used his divine power to suppress your 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls so that your soul wouldn't dissipate. Naturally, you could reconstruct your body. But now, can you still feel Qin Yin's aura in the Crimson Abyss? Her 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls have already dissipated. Give up. Qin Yin has already escaped into the cycle of reincarnation. Even God Emperors can't control this fact. Why are you still chasing after her so bitterly? No, it can't be. Lin Muyu suddenly withdrew his palm and held the celestial dragon crystal spiritual essence that he had collected. He said, "The power of the celestial dragon crystal will guide me to her. I will definitely find Xiao Yin. She must be waiting for me somewhere." As he spoke, a stream of turbid blood flowed down from the corner of Lin Muyu's eyes. He could no longer shed tears. He could only shed tears of blood and rocks. Ziyao's delicate body trembled. She bit her red lips and said, do you really want to persist like this? Fairy Ziyao. Lin Muyu looked at her and said, "I heard that once the divine truth of the heaven realm descends upon the human realm, it will consume 1,000 years of cultivation. Did you come here just to tell me to give up?" Ziyao nodded. That's right. Qin Yin's 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls have already dissipated. She might have already started a new cycle of reincarnation. You definitely won't be able to wait for her here. Give up. Your innate talent and comprehension are outstanding. There's no need to ruin your cultivation here, right? What message does the Demon Emperor want you to pass to me? Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh miserably and said, "I think I understand what he means. Ziyao, thank you for coming. Go back and help me tell the Demon Emperor that he's waiting for me in the heaven realm. One day, I will ascend and stand shoulder to shoulder with him in the myriad of stars." Ziyao bowed once again and said, "Then, this little girl will take her leave. You take care." Ziyao leaped up and soared into the sky. Rays of golden ring-shaped light lingered around her as she flew. In the blink of an eye, her speed became faster and faster. Finally, she broke through the restraints of space. Ziyao's figure disappeared and she had already entered another plane. Heaven realm. You're back? You've worked hard. In the pond of illusion, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor stood there alone. His gaze was fixed on Lin Muyu in the pond of illusion. He frowned and said, "This silly boy, his Tao, what kind of Tao is it?" Ziyao said softly, "Demon Emperor, didn't you say it yourself? Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same." I think this sentence is most suitable for Lin Muyu. Heaven and earth change, a lifetime of glory and splendor, even the great Tao Xiaoyao can't move his heart. Such a person is worthy to be your brother, Demon Emperor. Ah, that's right, that's right. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor clenched his fists and said, "Then, I'll wait for him in the heaven realm to stand shoulder to shoulder with me." Chapter 6:15. Time flew, and the smoke in the blood-red abyss had dissipated. The lava had turned into rocks, and the surface temperature had gradually returned to normal. Only the smoke rising from the fiery holes in the rock layer reminded people that this was the blood-red abyss, the abyss that had destroyed the entire 100-ridge city. There were many legends about what had happened in the blood-red abyss. Some said that the empire's empress, Qin Yin, and the princess, Tang Xiaoxi, were buried in the blood-red abyss. Some also said that Qin Yin had not died, but had ascended to the heaven realm. At least, this was what Feng Jixing, Qin Yan, and the others said. Otherwise, once the news of Qin Yin's death spread, the world would definitely be in chaos. However, there were also people who said that a peerless expert was sealed in the blood-red abyss, a young expert who had changed the history of the entire continent. His name was Lin Muyu. However, no one could find where Lin Muyu was. The only place that could be found was in the center of the blood-red abyss, where there was a 100-meter-tall rocky mountain. Some people said that Lin Muyu had sealed himself in the rocky mountain. He was waiting for the return of his true love. However, these seemed to be just legends. Many of them were fabricated by busybodies to be used as a topic for people to talk about after meals. Smoke and clouds lingered, and the majestic Rocky Mountains stood in the blood-red abyss like a spectacle. No one could understand why the dust in the blood-red abyss would gather together and form a mountain. In the depths of the Rocky Mountain, a young figure was still kneeling on one knee. In his hand was a starry sharp sword that had lost its original luster. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed, and Lin Muyu seemed to have truly become a part of the mountain. On the 7th day of the 7th month in the year 7736 of the Empire calendar, Feng Jixing took drastic measures and surrounded Sunset City. He then took over the granaries of the dozens of counties south of Sunset City. After surrounding Sunset City for 4 months, Ding Shi was finally defeated due to a lack of rations. Nearly half of the 300,000 soldiers defending Sunset City were killed. Ding Shi led the rest of his troops out of the Swift White Province and headed for the southernmost Bright Mountain Province of the Shattered Cauldron Realm continent. In the same month, Wei Qiu led the Genshin Battalion to attack Lingkong Province. Xiang Yu mobilized his troops from Hundred Ridge City, and the Imperial Army recovered Lingnan Province, Lingkong Province and Swift White Province of the Iha Kingdom, taking 70% of the Iha Kingdom's land. Ding Shi and Long Qianlin retreated step by step with their 200,000 soldiers. The empire was too powerful. The empire was too powerful. The empire was too powerful. They retreated to defend Mingshan Province and relied on Shangyang City to fight with the empire. On the 12th of August, the empire's army gathered on the plains to the north of Mingshan Province. The grand army of 600,000 was astonishing. Under the scorching sun, the army advanced slowly, bypassing a chain of mountain peaks. The sacred peak was where Luo Lan's 7 world palaces were located. The sacred peak was shrouded in mist, and it looked like a celestial abode. Wei Qiu looked in the direction of the 7 world palaces and said coldly, "That old dog Luo Lan helped the Iha kingdom conquer Lanyan City. He probably didn't expect this day to come. Why don't we surround the 7 world palaces and kill Luo Lan with 1,000,000 soldiers?" "There's no need." Feng Jixing waved his hand lightly and said, "Luo Lan has done all sorts of bad things. An evil god like him will be punished by the heavens. We've been traveling for days, and our soldiers are already exhausted. Besides, the terrain of the sacred peak is dangerous, and it's not conducive for an army to fight. Instead, the cultivators of the 7 world palaces will have a great advantage. It's not wise to attack the mountain now. If Luo Lan is courting death, he'll naturally come down to deal with us. Otherwise, there's no need for us to provoke him." Wei Qiu nodded. "Are there any new developments in the Crimson Abyss?" Feng Jixing asked. Wei Qiu said, "The Rocky Mountain is getting thicker and thicker, and the people we sent could no longer find Commander Yu. In the blink of an eye, a few months have passed, and Commander Yu hasn't eaten or drunk anything. I really don't know what to do." Feng Jixing sighed and slowly urged his horse. "Yu is blessed by the heavens. I hope he's fine. Besides, Yu has Fushi's divine power, and he shouldn't be tortured to death by hunger. Moreover, he's already in a state of hibernation. I didn't expect the dignified #1 general of the empire to seal himself in the blood abyss." Wei Qiu murmured, "Commander Yu's love for Her Highness Yin is deep, and I'm afraid it's not something we can understand." "That's right." Feng Jixing looked at the endless army on the main road and said in a low voice, "Where's the herald?" The sound of horse hooves came closer, and a herald respectfully said, "Marshal, what's the matter? Order Xiang Yu's main army to start searching for water once they enter the Mingshan province. In addition, inform Commander Su Yu to ensure food supplies. Shangyang City is incomparably sturdy, and that old thief Qin Yi won't give up on this piece of land so easily. There's going to be a protracted battle below Shangyang City, and we need to make sufficient preparations." "Yes." Feng Jixing looked at Wei Qiu and asked, "How are the preparations for the magic crystal cannons?" "The mountains are high and far." Wei Qiu frowned, "And the magic crystal cannons are so heavy." Even if we dismantle them, we won't be able to transport too many. There are only 10 magic crystal cannons traveling with us, and we should use them wisely. Understood. Feng Jixing took a deep breath. Whether or not we can blast open the iron gates of Shangyang City depends on the magic crystal cannons. It's all up to you, Wei Chou. When you isn't here, the Longdan army camp will be relying on you and Sidu Senior. Yes, Marshal, please rest assured. In Shangyang City, the setting sun shone on the ancient city, and the leaves of the pear trees swayed in the wind. In the palace in the city, Qin Yi sat there with an ashen face. Below him, Long Qianlin, Ding Shi, Man Ning, and the other officials were all present, but none of them said anything. At this stage of the war, what else could they say? The entire Iha country was almost powerless to reverse the situation. Is there no one who can defend Shangyang City? Qin Yi said coldly. Everyone looked at each other, but no one said anything. After a while, Man Ning cupped his hands and said, Commander-in-Chief, this old official thinks that we still have close to 300,000 soldiers, plus the 150,000 soldiers of Mingshan province. With close to 500,000 soldiers, we can still fight the empire. Moreover, the Iha country has won the hearts of the people. We can also mobilize the civilians to help us fight. Feng Jixing is a benevolent general. I believe he won't attack the civilians. Is that so? Qin Yi couldn't help but laugh. Ding Shi said, Commander-in-Chief, our 300,000 soldiers are exhausted, and most of the 150,000 soldiers of Mingshan province are newly recruited soldiers with no fighting strength at all. But the imperial army is different. The 350,000 soldiers of Qihai City under Feng Jixing are all elites, and Wei Chou's Longdan army camp has also been reorganized with 50,000 soldiers. Together with the elite soldiers of Xiangyu, Suyu, and Luo Exine, their 600,000 soldiers are all elites. If we take the initiative to fight, we will definitely lose. Qin Yi felt a chill in his heart. Then what should we do? What do you think, Commander Long? If we stubbornly defend, can we defend Shangyang City? I'm afraid it will be very difficult. Long Qianlin stood up and cupped his hands and said, Can you imagine, Commander-in-Chief, how sturdy the steel walls are? Even the tens of meters thick walls were blasted apart by the magic crystal cannons of the Longdan army camp. How sturdy can the walls of Shangyang City be? I'm afraid they will also collapse at the first blow. If we stubbornly defend, we will definitely become a pile of dregs under the magic crystal cannons. Qin Yi was startled. Then what does Commander Long think we should do? Outsmart them. How do we outsmart them? Long Qianlin smiled. Do you still remember how Lin Muyu annihilated the Thunder Chong army in the demon-slaying valley? A series of cannons? That's right. Long Qianlin said, According to my conjecture, the shells of the magic crystal cannons can detonate with each other. The explosion of one magic crystal cannon will trigger a series of explosions from the other magic crystal cannons. In this case, as long as we find an opportunity to sneak into the Longdan army camp and use one of the magic crystal cannons to bombard their ammunition storage camp, we will be able to destroy the magic crystal cannons of the Longdan army camp in one fell swoop. As he spoke, Long Qianlin smiled and said, We need time to buy time. The Imperial Army has only just arrived in the Southern Ridge a few months ago, so they don't have enough rations. Moreover, the Southern Ridge Province and the Swift White Province have just gone through a war. This year's harvest is not good, so they can't produce much rations. How much rations do the 600,000 soldiers of the Empire eat every day? Most of their rations have to be transported from the Northern Ridge. As long as we delay them for about 2 months, we will naturally be able to delay them until Feng Jixing runs out of rations. At that time, we can send a letter to order His Highness Qin Huan and his 100,000 men to attack. Working together, it will not be difficult to destroy the Empire's 600,000 soldiers. Qin Yi was wild with joy and said, Marshal Long of the Iha nation is truly a gift from the heavens. Then, according to Marshal Long, how should we destroy the magic crystal cannons in the Longdan army camp? Long Qianlin said, I remember. Marquis Man Ning has a distant nephew who is a chiliarch in the Longdan army camp. If we bribe him with money and power, he should be swayed. After all, he is only a chiliarch in the Longdan army camp. If we promise him the position of one of the 7 marshals of the empire, I believe he will not be able to refuse. However, we will have to trouble Marquis Man Ning to take the risk and make a trip there. Qin looked at Man Ning and said, Marquis Man Ning, what do you think? The fat on Man Ning's body trembled. He stood up and cupped his fists, saying, This old subject's dying body can serve the Iha nation. This is my honor. Qin smiled. Don't worry. If this matter is successful, Marquis Man Ning will no longer be Marquis Man Ning. I will confer you the title of King Ning. Man Ning could not help but be ecstatic. Yes, thank you, Commander. This old subject will do his best. Go. Yes. Under the support of 2 guards, Man Ning's fat body walked out of the palace step by step. Not long after, Man Ning disguised himself as a merchant and slowly left Shangyang City in a carriage, heading straight for the Imperial Army's camp in the distance. The setting sun bathed the earth in a layer of fresh blood. This was the final battle between the Empire and the Iha nation. Whoever emerged victorious would become the last ruler of this land. Both sides would spare no effort in this battle to the death. Chapter 616. Bam, bam, bam. Bolts of purple lightning shot into the sky, bringing with them a mushroom cloud. Violent shockwaves engulfed the Longdan army camp's magic crystal cannon battalion. Many soldiers didn't even have the chance to scream before they were obliterated by the light of the magic crystal cannons. Nearly 100 consecutive explosions rang out. This cannon blast had destroyed all the magic crystal cannons in the Longdan army camp. Above Shangyang City, Qin Yi, Long Chenlin, Ding Shi, and the others looked at the soaring purple light in the distance. It was like a catastrophe. Qin Yi clapped his hands and laughed, while Long Chenlin frowned. It wasn't hard to imagine that if all these cannonballs had landed on Shangyang City's walls, the city would have become history. Ding Shi was silent, his expression solemn. Long Chenlin's plan had succeeded, but what could it change? It would only delay the destruction of the Iha nation by a few months. Once the new magic crystal cannons from Lanyan City were shipped to the front lines, Shangyang City would still be reduced to ruins. If I could use these magic crystal cannons, I wouldn't have to worry about the world. Qin Yi sighed. Beside him, Man Ning said with a smile, Commander-in-Chief, it's not difficult to obtain the magic crystal cannons. As long as they have the will of the people, they can be bought. It's said that the magic crystal cannons were manufactured by a man called Qin Xiling in the imperial capital. As long as we find Qin Xiling and reward him, we won't have to worry about the magic crystal cannons. Qin Yi said with a smile, the Sunset King is right, but the war is at a stalemate now. There's no time to go to Lanyan City to invite Qin Xiling. Let's wait until the war is over. The Imperial Army's camp was already in chaos. Wei Chou carried his sword and led a line of guards toward the magic crystal cannons. He couldn't help but feel a pang in his heart when he saw the flames from afar. The magic crystal cannons were finished. Not long after, all the generals gathered in the main tent. Feng Jixing held the commander's seal and looked at the crowd indifferently. This explosion? I presume our magic crystal cannons are no more? Yes. Wei Chou cupped his fists and said with a livid face, this subordinate was incompetent and allowed one of my chiliarchs to fire a magic crystal cannon without permission, causing a series of explosions in the warehouse. All the cannonballs were destroyed. Sigh. Feng Jixing said, you can't be blamed for this. We need to find out who did this. We need to come up with a long-term plan. Tell me, since we don't have the magical crystal cannons anymore, how are we going to take Shangyang City? Su Er said, the walls of Shangyang City are 20 meters tall and are extremely sturdy. The gates are made of pure iron and are 1 meter thick. Siege chariots are of no use at all. Add to that the fact that Shangyang City is supported by nearly 100 wealthy provinces, and it will be very difficult to take the city by force. We have to attack even if it's difficult. Xiang Yu frowned and said, I suggest that we start attacking the city tomorrow. Every legion will attack the city for 3 days, taking turns to attack. This will tire out the defenders of Shangyang City. Then, we will send small groups of soldiers to infiltrate Shangyang City through the 2 mountain ranges and spread rumors that Qin Yi intends to abandon the city. This will disrupt their morale and cause Shangyang City to collapse on its own. Alright, that's the only way. Feng Jixing looked at Wei Chou and said, when will the next batch of magical crystal cannons be delivered? In a month. We need a heavy escort. We can't afford to make any more mistakes. Don't worry, Marshal. This subordinate will personally escort them. Good. Feng Jixing looked at the starry sky outside the tent and couldn't help but sigh. If only you were here. Su Yu, Wei Chou, Sidu Sen, Sidu Shui, Zhang Wei, and the others were immediately moved. Yes, if Lin Muyu were here, perhaps she would have a brilliant plan, and they wouldn't have to attack the city by force. Attacking by force meant that they would have to use the flesh and blood of the imperial soldiers to forge a new throne. Even though no one knew who would sit on this throne. Late at night, Feng Jixing still couldn't sleep with the military book in his hands. At this moment, a guard's voice came from outside. Marshal, Divine Marquis Zhen Yifan, Commander Su Yu, Commander Wei Chou, Commander Qin Yan, Commander Xiang Yu, and Commander Luo Xan request an audience. These 4 people were the pillars of their respective armies. Ever since Tang Lan and Su Muyun died, and Tang Xiaoxi's whereabouts were unknown, these people were the true pillars of the empire. Come in. There must be an important matter for them to come in the middle of the night. After the group of people entered the tent, Feng Jixing put down the military book, stood up, and cupped his fists. May I know what brings all of you here in the middle of the night? Everyone looked at each other, seemingly trying to shirk responsibility. Finally, Su Yu stepped forward, cupped her fists, and said, General Feng, you are the current marshal of the empire. The Empress's final edict was to confer you the title of marshal. But you is sealed in the Crimson Abyss, and you are the person with the highest military authority in the empire. We would like to ask, what plans do you have for the empire's future? Feng Jixing couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. Su Yu's meaning was self-evident. Now that Qin Yi was dead, the empire needed a new ruler. A country couldn't be without a ruler. Xiang Yu cupped his fists and said, ever since the empire entered Lingnan, we have been winning every battle. Now that the empress has fallen, the empire needs a new ruler. General Feng, the empire needs a new ruler. Ruler? Feng Jixing replied somewhat woodenly. Su Er said, General Feng, we are all important ministers of the empire. Although Xiao Yin didn't leave behind any words before she left, I'm sure Xiao Yin also doesn't want to see the empire fall apart. Everyone, what do you think? Feng Jixing said softly. He knew that the future ruler of the empire depended on who these people were willing to support. Xiang Yu frowned and said, we need a legitimate ruler with the bloodline of a ruler. Now, there aren't many people with the bloodline of the Qin family. His Highness Qin Yan is the person with the bloodline closest to Her Highness Yin. The other people are Qin Yong, Qin Jiao, and the others from Prince Zhong's residence. In my opinion, we should support Qin Yan as the new ruler of Great Qin. What does General Feng think? Feng Jixing didn't reply, but looked towards Qin Yan and asked, Yan, are you willing to be the ruler of Great Qin? Qin Yan stared blankly and hurriedly said, I'm not willing to steal my cousin's empire. Moreover, I don't know anything about the matters of an emperor. I don't even know how to face the imperial court. If I become the ruler, I will only harm the empire and the people. I hope that General Feng will reconsider. Feng Jixing sighed. Are there any other candidates? There is. Zheng Yifan stroked his beard and said, Lin Muyu, sealed in the blood-red abyss, is the foster son of the previous emperor and Her Highness Yin's foster brother. His military exploits are outstanding and unprecedented. His cultivation has also reached perfection. I'm afraid there is no one more suitable than him to be the new ruler of the Qin Empire. Zheng Yifan was the only old official present, so his words naturally carried a lot of weight. Feng Jixing nodded and said, It's just that He willingly sealed himself in the blood-red abyss. Even if I don't ask, everyone should understand that you will not accept it. Her Highness Een went to the 100-Ridge City alone and was killed. This matter has already made you feel guilty for half a year. If you were to ascend to the throne at this time, Divine Marquis, do you think you will agree? Zheng Yifan couldn't help but wring his hands and said, "That's right, the difficulty lies in the fact that Lin Muyu is a person who is loyal to his feelings." Feng Jixing looked at everyone with a burning gaze and said, "We are all the commanders of the empire and are all loyal to Her Highness Een. But Yu is still bitterly guarding the blood-red abyss, waiting for Her Highness Yin's return. Shouldn't we wait? I think the Qin Empire will no longer support an emperor and will only confer titles of nobles. We will guard this 10,000 miles of territory and wait for the day when Her Highness Een returns. How about it?" Everyone cupped their fists. After a while, Su'er said, "Then, there should be a person who can hold the power alone, right?" Feng Jixing nodded. "After we break into Shangyang City and kill Qin Yi, Long Qianlin, and the other enemies, I will personally go to the blood-red abyss and ask you to ascend to the throne. If he is unwilling, then we will have to trouble Ai Yan." Qin Yan was stunned. Feng Jixing's palm lightly covered Qin Yan's shoulder, and he said, "This is your responsibility. There's no need to decline. None of us here have the qualifications to proclaim ourselves emperors. We are all waiting for the day Her Highness Een returns." Bai Ling City. Clouds and smoke shrouded the sky above the blood-red abyss. A group of fast horses galloped over, and a group of cultivators dismounted. Each of them had the emblem of the 7 world palaces on their arms. In the air, an old man stepped on clouds. It was Luo Lan, who had already cultivated to the peak of the hierarch realm. Luo Lan was a cautious person. As one of the state advisors of the Iha country, he had gone into hiding after the Iha country's defeat. He also knew that he could not defy the will of the heavens. The Iha country had suffered a crushing defeat. Under such circumstances, defying the will of the heavens was undoubtedly harming himself. "This is the blood-red abyss?" Luo Lan laughed coldly, looking disdainfully at the abyss. A group of disciples jumped into the abyss. There was no lack of saints among them. All of them held weapons in their hands and walked carefully in the abyss. In the distance, a rock mountain stood tall. A disciple hurriedly said, "Celestial Sovereign, look. That is the rock mountain that Lin Muyu sealed himself in. His body is within that rock mountain. Follow me." "Yes." The group of people flew over. When they arrived at the foot of the rock mountain, they found that the rock mountain was extraordinarily big. It was very majestic, and there were patches of green on it. There were many fragments of Qin Yin's divine essence in this blood-red abyss, but they are all gone now. Lin Muyu must have taken them away. A disciple said angrily. Lin Muyu said that he would wait here for Qin Yin's return. Return? Luo Lan could not help but laugh coldly. "I'm afraid he won't have that chance. Today I, Luo Lan, will break the mountain and take his life. I will make sure that Lin Muyu will never recover. All of you, get out of my way. I'm going to attack. Today, I will send Lin Muyu and Qin Een to hell together." "Yes." The disciples dispersed one by one. Luo Lan stepped in the air and suddenly let out a low roar. Suddenly, golden light flowed around his arms. When he put his palms together above his head, his divine power condensed into a peerless divine saber. It was the power of Luo Lan's martial soul, demon blood saber. Boom! The ground shook and the top half of the rock mountain was smashed by Luo Lan's saber. Again! Luo Lan roared and struck again. Bang! Rocks flew everywhere, and the stone mountain instantly cracked open from the center. However, a powerful force surged within the mountain. Chapter 617. Peng, peng, peng. The stone mountain crumbled and flowers bloomed. Under Luo Lan's second attack, the boulder shattered inch by inch and almost turned into dust. Amidst the dust, a young man wearing a tattered white robe and armor knelt on one knee. His hand was holding a dim long sword and his head was lowered as he knelt there silently without saying a word. However, golden rays of Fushi divine energy formed a huge self-defense shield above his head, protecting his body from Luo Lan's demonic blood blade. Ha! Luo Lan laughed arrogantly. Lin Muyu, you really didn't die. The disciples of the 7 world palaces were on high alert as they took out their weapons and surrounded Lin Muyu from afar. Who didn't know Lin Muyu's strength? He was just a holy king, but he had 2 martial souls, the 7 luminaries' profound energy, star arts, and other secret arts. His strength was comparable to a peak holy king, and he even had the ability to challenge a hierarch. They had to be wary of such a person. After the dust settled, Lin Muyu finally raised his head. His face was covered in layers of stone skin, and the stone skin was connected to the moss. It looked terrifying, but the light in his eyes never changed. He looked at Luo Lan in the sky and said indifferently, Luo Lan, what are you doing here again? Luo Lan's eyes were filled with disdain as he said, I'm looking for the essence of Qin Yin's godhead fragments to recast her overgod godhead for my use. Lin Muyu, if you know what's good for you, get out of here immediately. From now on, everything that belongs to Qin Yin belongs to me, Luo Lan. Bullshit. Lin Muyu's voice was very calm as he said indifferently, this is the place where Xiao Yin rests. Get out of here with your lackeys and I can consider sparing your lives. Dream on. Luo Lan laughed loudly, you're already sealed in stone and can't even protect yourself. You still want to threaten us? Lin Muyu, Lin Muyu, you wasted the efforts of the 7 luminaries demon emperor to nurture you. Look at yourself now. You're willing to seal yourself in stone for a woman. You're dreaming if you think you can conquer the heaven realm with such ambition. You should just die obediently. Hell is the most suitable place for you in the 3 realms. Lin Muyu did not say a word. She struggled with all her might, only to find that most of her body had turned into rock and had become one with the earth in the depths of the crimson abyss. Her veins were also connected to thin vines. Now, it was as if her entire body was tied up there, unable to move. You piece of trash, take my blade. Luo Lan roared, his eyes glowing fiercely. He took out the demon blood blade and his divine power surged. He suddenly slashed down from the sky, using at least 30% of his divine power. Suddenly, the surrounding air seemed to solidify. Before the blade hit the ground of the blood abyss had already started to crumble inch by inch. Rock fragments swirled in the air and exploded in the air. A strong sense of oppression came crashing down from the sky. Lin Muyu couldn't help but be secretly shocked. Luo Lan's cultivation was no longer the Luo Lan of a few years ago. He had indeed reached the peak of the first heaven of the divine state. His Yi was filled with blood-red chaos. Lin Muyu couldn't summon much power. The king's combat flame in his body seemed to have gone dormant. Only a strand of Fushi's divine power could resist the enemy. With a roar, Fushi's divine power condensed into a dragon blood shield above his shoulder. Bang! That earth-shattering attack caused Lin Muyu's body to tremble as she fell several meters into the ground. The ground around her crumbled and evaporated. A wave of golden divine power spread out in all directions, catching the Luo Lan disciples off guard and causing them to fall. Many disciples with lower cultivation bases were directly knocked unconscious or injured by the divine power's shockwave. Buzz, buzz, buzz. In the blood abyss, the golden light that was scattered in the corner was constantly wailing. That was the essence of the divine spark that Qin Yin had left behind. However, these essence fragments were currently withstanding the destructive power of Luo Lan. Lin Muyu raised his head. His eyes were filled with anger. He shouted, I told you to stop. How dare an ant like you speak so arrogantly? In the air, Luo Lan wore a golden robe and held a blood-red demon blood saber. His eyes were filled with disdain. Lin Muyu, do you know the difference between a god and a human? A god is above everything. A human is just an ant. Your pain, your sorrow, in my eyes, is just an insignificant pleading from an ant. You are not worthy to be my opponent. I only used 30% of my strength in the previous attack. Next, I will use 40%. Let's see how you can block it. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Faint golden runes appeared in the heaven realm. It seemed to be providing Luo Lan's divine power. At this moment, the two planes seemed to have been opened. Luo Lan was borrowing the power of the heaven realm to kill Lin Muyu. Did the heaven realm, that holy plane, really represent justice? Probably not. Boo. Luo Lan's second blow landed heavily on Lin Muyu's shoulder. Immediately, a heart-wrenching pain spread through Lin Muyu's body, causing the rocks around him to shatter. Lin Muyu himself spat out a mouthful of blood. Although this attack severely injured Lin Muyu, it also made Lin Muyu realize that the blood-red chaotic power that had shrouded his Ihai for half a year had dissipated a lot. A new king's fighting flame crazily rushed into his Ihai. Come on, continue. Let's see how many blades you have. Lin Muyu raised his head and roared. Presumptuous. Luo Lan stood proudly in the air like a Buddha. The demon blood saber in his hand buzzed. The passage to the heaven realm constantly flowed with divine power and poured into Luo Lan's body. Strength to break all things. The demon blood saber was raised again. This time, endless divine power descended from the sky and drilled into the ground. In the next moment, the blood abyss trembled and exploded. This huge blood abyss was being destroyed at a rapid pace. The last bit of power that Qin Yin left on the ground was also quickly dissipating. Stop! Lin Muyu's eyes were bloodshot as he roared. Are you angry? Luo Lan laughed. I want you to be angry. I want you to be angry, but you can't do anything about it. I want you to be angry, but you can only watch as I control everything. This is the difference between a god and an ant. Now die. Buzz. The demon blood saber descended from the sky and slashed the dragon blood battle shield that Fushi had condensed with divine power for the third time. Bang! The sky shook and the ground shook. The entire surface of the blood abyss was violently collapsing. The barren walls of Bailing City in the distance were also collapsing. Luo Lan's current cultivation was no longer a disgrace to the word God. Perhaps, only a god could have the ability to destroy heaven and earth. Pooh! Fresh blood splattered on the ground. Lin Muyu was already heavily injured, but his unyielding will allowed him to continue persevering. However, what worried him was that before he died, this blood abyss would be destroyed by Luo Lan. Around him, the disciples of the 7 world palaces saw that the outcome had been decided. All of them were grinning from ear to ear. An immortal venerable strength is indeed unparalleled in the mortal world. Lin Muyu is dead for sure this time. He's the one courting death. As an ant, he actually dares to challenge the might of the heavens. He's simply courting death. Immortal venerable, one more slash, chop Lin Muyu's dog head into pieces. Ha, what 4 heroes of Lan Yen. What wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. They're just a bunch of jumping clowns. Immortal venerable, strengthen the might of our 7 world palaces. The ridicule from the crowd could not enter Lin Muyu's ears. All of his emotions were concentrated in his EC. Luo Lan's third slash had split the blood chaos in his EC by 30%. 2 more slashes, maybe 1 more slash would be enough to disperse this seal that had appeared out of nowhere. Still not dead yet? Luo Lan stood in the air and sneered. The demon blood saber buzzed and trembled. Godly energy rapidly poured into it. This time, at least 70% of the godly energy was gathered. The demon blood saber spun in the air and slashed down with great force. Boom! The ground completely collapsed. Lin Muyu fell several hundred meters, his petrified body falling into the boiling lava. Luo Lan waved his hand, and his godly energy spread out like a huge net in the air, protecting the group of disciples so that they would not fall into the second layer of the blood abyss. Wah! Lin Muyu still maintained his kneeling position. He held the sword in one hand as he knelt in the boiling lava. Looking up at the sky, a faint golden light shone in his eyes. Shio, shio, shio. Rays of holy light rippled under his feet. His EC had never been so clear before. Moreover, all the auras, energy, changes of the stars, and the rotation of the universe seemed to be crystal clear. At this moment, Lin Muyu had entered a whole new realm, the Saint Heaven realm. Finally, thanks to the power of Luo Lan's fourth slash, Lin Muyu had stepped into the third layer of the Saint realm. In the air, Luo Lan saw everything clearly. He could not help but feel a chill in his heart. His embarrassment turned into anger, and he poured all of his godly energy into the demon blood saber. In an instant, the sky turned dark, and beams of golden light poured into Luo Lan's body. After the full power was released, Luo Lan's eyes had already turned golden, the unique color of a god's eyes. Kill! Luo Lan descended from the sky, concentrating all of his strength into a single slash. This was already Luo Lan's strongest attack at his current cultivation level. Lin Muyu did not have any fear in his heart. The Saint Heaven realm's power continuously attacked every part of his body, and the rock layer on the surface of his body cracked and cracked. The light from the stellar sword in his hands soared into the sky, and he met Luo Lan's attack head-on. He did not use any techniques, but simply used Fushi's godly energy to meet Luo Lan's full power attack head-on. Bang! 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 3 consecutive loud sounds rang out, and a splatter of blood splattered in the air. Celestial Sovereign, this is impossible. This is impossible. The group of disciples from the 7 world palaces were all dumbfounded. In the air, Luo Lan's body fluttered down like cotton, while Lin Muyu wielded the astral sword in his hand. His eyes were completely coated with a golden sheen as beams of golden light shot through the clouds and gathered around his body. Numerous golden runes revolved around the pillar of light, and faint sounds of chanting could be heard. Lin Muyu had stepped into the heavenly divinity realm. Rays of transparent and resplendent spheres of energy revolved around Lin Muyu, and each of them had a different luster and color. Red like fire, green like wind, blue like ice, gold like light, and purple like lightning. A total of 12 beads containing godly energy revolved around Lin Muyu, and his golden eyes were filled with indescribable anger. He shouted, "Even if I am an ant, I will still kill you, despicable god." 1. His figure shot towards Luo Lan like a meteor, and Lin Muyu slashed out with his sword. Ah! Luo Lan hurriedly raised the devil blood saber to block, but how could he block it? In the next instant, the saber was destroyed, and Luo Lan was dead. The golden sword chi from Lin Muyu's sword pierced out from Luo Lan's body, tearing the earth and rivers apart. This sword strike seemed to be able to tear the earth apart, causing the entire 100-mountain range city to tremble. Even the steel walls in the distance collapsed. Slaying a god. Celestial Sovereign, oh my heavens! The group of disciples from the 7 world palaces were dumbfounded, but when they looked at Lin Muyu's golden eyes, all of them involuntarily knelt down. At this moment, Lin Muyu was the true god, and they were merely ants that were as lowly as dirt. Chapter 6:18. Heavenly Realm, Pond of Illusion. Ziyao, who was dressed in a white veil, looked like a fairy as she stared at the scene of Lin Muyu awakening in the Pond of Illusion. Her face was filled with shock and disbelief as she murmured, "Wind, fire, lightning, earth, ice, light, life, space, order, darkness, chaos, wisdom. A total of 12 spiritual bodies of laws." He actually awakened a sovereign lattice. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor was equally shocked, but his face was filled with joy. "Ha! As expected of my brother, you is born with a sovereign lattice, ha!" The group of god emperors and god kings were dumbfounded, their faces pale. What did a sovereign lattice mean? It meant that as long as he made good use of it, he could become a true god in the heavenly realm, or even the ruler of the heavens beyond heaven. The 7 luminaries' demon emperor said, "Looks like we don't have to worry about the shattered cauldron world anymore. However, you has just awakened a sovereign lattice and he is not good at making use of it. If we miss this opportunity," Ziyao smiled faintly, "don't worry, after I descended to the lower realm, I left a restriction in the blood-red abyss. Anyone who uses divine power in the blood-red abyss will suffer a backlash. Ayu used such a tyrannical supreme divine power, but his cultivation is still shallow, so he will definitely fall into a deep sleep due to the backlash, and then enter the forgotten realm that the Supreme Being must go through. The Seven Brilliance Demon Monarch took a deep breath. That's for the best. It's time for him to truly cultivate after he enters the forgotten realm. That kid Ayu. He's so stubborn, compassionate, and crazy. Are those words his Tao, his rules? Xiao said, the sovereign lattice is the one that rules over all things. It requires extremely difficult cultivation to complete the second awakening. Everything depends on how you passes the forgotten realm. Wait for him to awaken again. Bai Ling City. The blood abyss was filled with smoke. It was as though the scene of Qin Yin's death half a year ago had returned. However, this time, it was a scene of slaughter. A beam of golden light shot through the sky above the blood abyss. The stellar sword once again slashed out with a heaven-piercing golden sword chi, shredding the 3 disciples of the 7 world palaces into pieces. You want to leave? Lin Muyu abruptly turned around and opened her palm. A law of darkness spun in her palm, and with a wung sound, darkness energy surged. A Saint Realm disciple who was trying to escape was instantly immobilized. His body slowly swelled up and exploded into a bloody mess. Under the might of the law of darkness, a mere Saint Realm expert was not even worth mentioning. All of you will die. Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with a merciless golden light. She pointed her long sword straight towards the sky. Suddenly, the heaven realm's divine power in the clouds poured down as if it was summoned by its master. Swoosh, 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 3 golden crystal pillars fell from the sky. It was Qin Yin's celestial dragon crystal. Bang, bang, bang. The law of light's destructive energy rippled outwards, and not a single one of the disciples from the 7 world palaces was spared. Lin Muyu flew through the air and stomped on the ground. Bo! A boundless chill swept out, and a curtain of ice and snow rapidly extended in the sky, freezing a few disciples who had already escaped far away into ice shards. Obviously, they were already dead. However, Lin Muyu's intense Ci and Qi Ci were in a state of chaos. The supreme god force in her body had to be spat out quickly. She raised her iron fist in the air, and a blood-red energy revolved around her fist. This was the chaotic god force of the law of chaos. Her entire body was like a meteor as she fell into the blood abyss. This fist seemed as if it wanted to tear the earth apart. The earth shook violently, and the ruins of the 100-ridge city in the distance started to collapse. The power of this fist was no less than a magnitude 10 earthquake. Hong, hong, streams of fiery red lava soared into the sky, and the entire blood abyss doubled in size. Fortunately, the 100-ridge city was already a dead city with no signs of human habitation. Otherwise, this fist would have killed at least 1 million people. In the air, the shattered rocks and lava only fell back down after a few minutes. Piles of rubble piled up to form a new stone mountain, and it was a stone mountain that stretched for more than 10 li. However, Lin Muyu's figure was nowhere to be seen, and her supreme god force had also dissipated. It was as if nothing had happened, and all that was left was the stone mountain, as well as the shattered corpses of Luo Lan and the disciples from the 7 world palaces. Sleeping and awakening her strength did not mean that she had truly become stronger. Lin Muyu needed time to consolidate her strength, otherwise, how would she be able to control such a powerful supreme godhead? Wang! The table started to shake, and the candlelight on it flickered. Feng Jixing, who was holding a book on military strategy, couldn't help but be stunned. He raised his head and asked, "What's wrong, an earthquake?" Not far away, Zhang Wei said, "It seems like an earthquake." "Where did the earthquake come from?" Chu Yao asked. "I don't know." Wei Chou shook his head, saying, "It seems like the earthquake came from the direction of the 100-ridge city. The place of the earthquake is very far away from us, but the feeling is very strong." Feng Jixing said, "Looks like there was a big earthquake in the direction of the 100-ridge city. It's a pity that the people of the Southern Ridge province have experienced so many wars, and now they have to face such a strong earthquake. They have no way to live. Chu Yao smiled faintly. "After we kill Qin Yi, We will reduce the taxes of the Southern Ridge Province for the next 3 years. And that's the only way. Feng Jisheng looked to the north and said, I wonder how Yu is doing. He's in the blood abyss, and if there is an earthquake in the 100 Ridge City, you won't be able to avoid it. Wei Chou said, how about, this subordinate immediately leads the cavalry to the 100 Ridge City to protect commander? No need. Feng Jisheng waved his hand, a ray of light flashed in his eyes, and said, who is Yu? He's an expert comparable to the immortal state. A mere earthquake can't do anything to him. We should kill Qin Yi as soon as possible, that's the best plan. At the same time, in a small town to the south of the 100 Ridge City, the sound of a baby being born could be heard. The family was very happy, and an old man with white hair and beard was extremely happy, holding a baby girl, and said with a red face, she's finally born, our Li family has a descendant. The Li family ran a clinic in the small town. Their only son, Li Xiang, was recruited as a soldier of the Iha country, and died in battle half a year ago, leaving a descendant in his wife's womb. The baby girl that was born was the only descendant of the Li family. Her father, Li Shu, was a doctor who collected, sold, and treated illnesses for a living. After losing his son in old age, he got a granddaughter, and it was easy to imagine how happy he was. The small town was full of sparks. On the 20th of the 12th month, year 7736 of the Empire calendar, Qin Xiling personally escorted 70 magic crystal cannons to Lingnan. Feng Jisheng mobilized 240,000 men, arranged 12 Qianquan battle formations to fight the Iha country, and defeated Long Qianlin's Iron Chain formation. Wei Chou bombarded Shangyang City, razing the entire northern city wall to the ground, and the army killed their way into the city. After Shangyang City was breached, Long Qianlin and Ding Shi led the remnants of the army to escort Qin Yi, Man Ning, and their families out of Mingshan Province, and formed a fleet at the east sea border of Lingkong Province. They gathered a total of more than 800 warships of the Iha country, and left Lingnan with a large sum of money, talents, and women, crossing the sea to seek refuge on the dragon-shaped island. On the 7th of the 3rd month, year 7737 of the Empire calendar, Feng Jisheng commanded 1,200 warships of the Empire and a total of 100,000 troops to attack the dragon-shaped island. However, they encountered a storm on the sea, and more than 200 warships were lost, and the navy suffered heavy losses. Then, they encountered Long Qianlin's hidden troops on the north side of the dragon-shaped island, and their warships suffered heavy losses. In the end, they returned in low spirits, and had no choice but to give up the plan to eliminate Qin. On the 3rd of the 4th month, year 7737 of the Empire calendar, Qin Yen led 100,000 elite troops and 30 magic crystal cannons to defeat the advanced troops of the demon race and the armored demon army in Heaven's Pivot Province, and recaptured the Heaven's Pivot Province from the hands of the demon race. In the middle of the 4th month, Qianfeng ordered the demon race to officially withdraw from Lingdong Province, and all the troops went into hibernation in the Tongtian Gorge and Tongtian Province. They would not contend with the empire for supremacy for a short period of time. At this point, under the leadership of Feng Jisheng, Xiang Yu, and the others, the empire was reunified, and most of the 12 provinces returned to the empire's territory. On the 5th of the 5th month, year 7737 of the empire calendar, Feng Jisheng, Qin Yen, Chu Yao, Su Yu, Xiang Yu, Zhen Yifan, and the others arrived at the blood-red abyss. At this time, the blood-red abyss had already become a huge basin. The basin was overgrown with weeds, and a towering stone mountain stood at the center of the abyss. There were no signs of human habitation here, and only birds and beasts roamed around. Chu Yao looked at the stone mountain covered in grass, and couldn't help but tremble. She knew that Lin Muyu was buried under this mountain, but no one knew where he was, and when he would wake up. Everyone walked step by step to the top of the stone mountain, but the ground was barren. What else could they find? Sidu Shui frowned slightly and said, "Milord, where is he?" Situsen said, "A year ago, a hunter said that he personally witnessed a battle between gods. Commander, you grasped the power of gods, and killed Luo Lan and all the disciples of the 7 world palaces. If that's the case, Commander, you might have already ascended to the heaven realm. Impossible. Feng Jishing muttered. Why is it impossible? I know him too well. Feng Jishing's eyes were red, and he said, before finding Her Highness, you will definitely not ascend to the heaven realm. Why would this silly boy ascend by himself? Wei Chou gritted his teeth and said, we must find Milord. Men, dig the stone mountain for me and find Commander. Su Yu hurriedly stopped him and said, if you doesn't want to see us, there's no need for us to disturb him. Furthermore, this is the place where Her Highness Yin rests. How can we wantonly dig here? Then what should we do? Qin Yen was stunned. Feng Jishing sighed lightly, and he had a helpless look. Zhen Yifan said, the world has already been unified, and it cannot be without a ruler. General Feng, let this old subject tell Commander you some things, is that all right? I'll have to trouble Divine Overlord. Yes. Xing Yifan slowly walked forward, holding the golden imperial edict in his hand. He knelt on the peak of the stone mountain and said, Commander Yu, the world has already been unified. However, Her Highness Yin has already passed away, and we must appoint a new ruler. Therefore, after discussion, we have decided to appoint 3 kings. Everyone has elected Commander Yu as King Qin, Commander Feng Jishing as King Xian, and His Highness Qin Yen as King Zhong. Before Her Highness Yin returns to the Shattered Cauldron Realm continent, the 3 kings will rule the world. We hope that Your Highness King Qin will wake up soon. The Empire needs you to rule the world. Feng Jishing came behind Zhen Yifan and said softly, You, we are all subjects of the Qin clan, and we are all waiting for Her Highness Yin's return. I hope that you are the same. Don't be willful and return to Lanyan City, if you are still there. As he spoke, Feng Jishing's heart was filled with bitterness. He had already stepped into the Saint Heaven realm, but at this moment, he couldn't feel any spiritual energy pulse in the mountain. There was no one at the bottom of the mountain, and no one knew where Lin Muyu had gone. Chapter 619. June 15th, Lanyan City, Re-establishment Ceremony. The periphery of the Zetian Palace was officially opened to the commoners, so much so that it was almost overcrowded. Over 100,000 commoners gathered at the periphery of the Zetian Palace's square, waiting for the crowning ceremony. Inside the palace, all the officials were silent. The throne was empty, the divine weapon was not wielded by anyone, and the 2 kings, Feng Jishing and Qin Yen, were only holding their weapons and standing at the foot of the throne. Xiang Yu, Zhen Yifan, Su Yu, and the others had grave expressions. Although they had already wiped out the rebels of Iha country and repelled the demon race, Qin Yin was already dead, Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi's whereabouts were unknown. The empire's territory was unified, but the people's hearts were not. This was something that they could not be happy about no matter what. Are you ready, Yen? Feng Jishing asked in a low voice. Yes. Qin Yen was a little nervous. He gripped the hilt of his sword tightly, and at the same time, tightened the chain on his armor a little. Feng Jishing smiled slightly and said, Duke Zhong, let's go out. The people of the world have been waiting for a long time. There shouldn't be a problem for you to summon them, right? Zheng Yifan said respectfully, Your Highness Prince Exen, this is this old subject's honor. Yes, let's go, Yen. Feng Jishing lightly bumped Qin Yan's shoulder and walked out of the palace with him. In this world, the 2 kings, Feng Jishing and Qin Yen, had the highest authority. Of course, the real ruler was Lin Muyu, who was sleeping in the blood-red abyss. Feng Jishing was Prince Exen, Qin Yen was Prince Zhong, and Lin Muyu's title was the Qin Wang. It was obvious who was the real ruler of the empire. When Feng Jishing and Qin Yen walked out of the main hall in their golden cloaks, the sea of people outside instantly burst into cheers. The empire's commoners had suffered from the war, and now they had finally welcomed the unification of the empire. They had finally chased away the cruel devil race. This was the result they had been waiting for a long time. After the 2 kings, Xiang Yu, Luo Xen, Wei Chou, and the others followed one by one. When the group of ministers came to the altar outside the palace, Zhen Yifan, wearing a purple robe and holding a golden imperial edict, came to the front. He raised the imperial edict, and imbued his voice with the power of the holy domain. He said loudly, "By the emperor's decree." Immediately, the tens of thousands of imperial guards outside the palace knelt down, and the civilians in the distance also knelt down. Zheng Yifan opened the scroll and read with a penetrating voice, "Her Highness the Empress Qin Yin has ascended to cultivate, and specially ordered the 3 kings to rule the world on her behalf." The commander of the Brave Dragon Legion, Lin Muyu, is the foster son of the former emperor and the empress's foster brother, has outstanding military service and is famous throughout the world. She is conferred the title of Qin Wang. The commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, has performed meritorious service in eliminating the Lingnan rebels. She is conferred the title of Prince Exin and will guard the southern border. The commander of the Imperial Guards, Qin Yan, is the son of Prince Jining, Qin An. He has the bloodline of the Great Qin and has performed meritorious service in recovering the Tianshu province. She is conferred the title of Prince Zhong and will guard the northern border. Feng Jixing and Qin Yan knelt down together. The female official, Shengguan Jingyue, walked forward, holding the sword seals of the kings, and bestowed them one by one. Feng Jixing held the seal, and his heart was filled with mixed feelings. If he could choose, he would rather continue to be the commander of the Imperial Guards under Xiaoyao. But now that Qin Yin had passed away and Lin Muyu wasn't around, if he didn't stand up, the Qin Empire would inevitably be stolen by others. At the very least, before Qin Yin and Lin Muyu return, he had to take care of this huge empire on their behalf. Qin Yan's face was slightly excited. After all, a man should be able to establish meritorious service in this world. Now that his title of nobility had reached the pinnacle, if his father and elder brother were still alive, they should be proud of their current status, right? Zheng Yifan took another imperial edict and continued to read loudly. Marquis of Pingnan, Xiangyu, is conferred the title of Duke of Southern, guarding Mingshan Province. Luo Exin, the adopted son of Yunzhong King, is conferred the title of Duke of Northern, guarding Yunzhong Province. Wei Chou, the deputy commander of Valiant Dragon Army, is conferred the title of Duke of Wei, guarding Lingdong Province. Zheng Yifan, the title of Divine Marquis, is conferred the title of Duke of Zhonghua, guarding Qihai Province. Xiangyu, Luo Xin, and Wei Chou knelt down one after another, and Shengguan Jingyue once again bestowed them with new duke sword seals. Zheng Yifan paused for a moment, then said loudly again, Su Jiantao is conferred the title of Marquis of Tsungen, guarding Tsangnan Province. Beili Tsang is conferred the title of Marquis of Tsunghai, commanding the empire's navy. Tang Zhen is conferred the title of Marquis of Jinshi, commanding the Jinghua army. Yao Yuan is still the title of Marquis of Jinghai, guarding Lingkong Province. Su Yu is conferred the title of Marquis of Xining, guarding Tianshu Province. All the marquises must do their best to assist the 3 princes in ruling the world. The 5 of them knelt down one after another, accepting the conferment. 3 princes, 4 dukes, and 5 marquises. From then on, the new ruling structure of the Qin Empire was forged, and it was precisely this structure that allowed the Qin Empire to be peaceful for more than 10 years. Following that, they conferred the titles of various ministers, assistant ministers, and so on. The entire empire had a brand new look. At night, a banquet was set up in Zetian Hall to entertain the ministers. Zetian Hall was still the same as before, just that there was no master. After the conferment ceremony, Feng Jixing would soon return to Sunset City to train the troops and guard the southern border. Qin Yan, on the other hand, would be in charge of the military deployment of the entire northern Ridge Province's 8 major provinces. As Duke Wei, Wei Chou was also the commander of the Longdan army camp. His task was the heaviest. He had to go to Lingdong Province, rebuild Lingdong, contend against, and exterminate the demon race. As they toasted each other, everyone drank too much. The weather in June was already very hot, and a group of ministers staggered from drinking. Everyone knew that the empire no longer had an emperor and only had 3 princes. Duke Wei Cho held onto a wine cup that was half spilled and came out of the hall. He sat down under a stone pillar and looked at the bright moon in the sky, feeling tipsy. When he thought of Qin Yin's death and Tang Xiaoxi's disappearance, Lin Muyu's heart was like dead ashes, and tears rolled down uncontrollably. He didn't feel any honor or favor from being promoted to Duke Wei, only bitterness. Duke Wei is hiding here and crying by himself. How does this look? Feng Jixing's voice rang out from behind. His armor was draped with the Duke's gilded cloak, and he held onto the golden Ju in his hand. He sat down next to Wei Cho and looked toward the south, listening to the musicians playing music in the palace behind him. Feng Jixing couldn't help but feel desolate in his heart. His eyes turned red, and he turned away to wipe away his tears. It was true that there was nothing to be happy about. Wei Cho smiled. Prince Exin, why have you come? It's better if you just call me General Feng. Feng Jixing raised his head and drank the top-grade snowflower wine in the golden Ju. He said, Wei Cho, although our empire now has powerful weapons like the magic crystal cannons, we still mustn't underestimate the devil race. I think you know better than anyone else how terrifying the devil race's huge flying snakes are. The Longdan army camp has entered deep into the wintering province alone. Our plan is only to defend and not take the initiative to provoke and attack. We mustn't underestimate Qianfeng. I understand. It's just that the Longdan army camp has suffered severe casualties. It'll probably be hard for us to face the devil race alone. Don't worry about that. Feng Jixing smiled and said, during this month, I'll select soldiers who have gone through hundreds of battles from the hundreds of thousands of elite soldiers in Lingnan to replenish the Longdan army camp. We'll expand the Longdan army camp to 100,000 people and become the real #1 army. Apart from that, I've discussed it with a Yen and will give you a reserve army of 100,000 people for you to train. We'll prepare all the strategic resources that the wintering province needs and send them to the wintering province endlessly from Lingnan and Lingbei. That's great. Feng Jixing patted his shoulder and smiled. Wei Cho, you're able to become the commander-in-chief of an army of 200,000 at such a young age. You have a great future ahead of you. Make good use of this rare opportunity. However, Wei Cho felt a little sad and said, I'd rather continue to be that general under the Lord Commander. People have to grow. This is your cultivation. Feng Jixing took a long look at him and said, before you returns, you'll be his incarnation. You should understand. I know. Wei Cho took in a deep breath and asked, General Feng, as Prince Exin, you're going to head over to Lingnan soon. However, the chaos in Lingnan has just been pacified. Do you have the confidence to rule over Lingnan? Don't worry. Feng Jixing said confidently, the 300,000 elite soldiers from Seven Seas City are all in my hands. They'll be enough to guard Lingnan. Moreover, quite a number of the commanders from the Seven Seas City Army have become my trusted subordinates. You don't have to worry about this. That's good. Just then, a young general walked over with a wine glass in his hand. He had 3 golden stars on his collar and was a commander. He smiled respectfully and said, Prince Exin, why have you come out? Our brothers are waiting for you to drink. I'll be right there. Feng Jixing laughed out loud and said, Wei Cho, let me introduce him to you. This young general is Qin Xiaoli, the son of Qin Chong, the commander of the Seven Seas City's Zhanghe army. Ever since Commander Qin Chong died in battle, he has taken over as the commander of the Zhanghe army. Although he's young, he's a talented general who can hold his own. When Qin Xiaoli saw Wei Cho, his eyes lit up. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, I, Qin Xiaoli, pay my respects to Duke Wei. Commander Qin, there's no need to stand on ceremony. Wei Cho returned the empire's military salute and said, Prince Exin has such a young and capable general under you. It seems that my worries are a little unnecessary. Feng Jixing said, Commander Qin, you can go back and drink first. I'll be back after chatting a little more with Wei Cho. Yes, Prince Exin. Come quickly. Go ahead. Feng Jixing turned around, and his smiling face was replaced with a solemn expression. He said, Wei Chou, there's still something I need you to do in Lingdong province this time around. Oh, what is it? We've received a secret report saying that a farmer saw Princess Shi in the fields of Lingdong province. She's imprisoned in a huge crystal and is unconscious. What? Princess Shi? Wei Chou stood up abruptly and said, "This? How is this possible? Didn't they say that Princess Shi is dead?" From the looks of it, Princess Shi isn't dead. Feng Jixing muttered to himself and said, "I can't sense Yu's aura in the Crimson Abyss anymore. He should have entered a state of deep sleep. There are only two people in this world who can awaken you. One is Her Highness Yin, but she's no longer around. The other is Princess Shi. As long as we can find Princess Shi, we'll be able to awaken you. Princess Shi is most likely with the devil race. Go and ask around." I understand." Feng Jixing nodded, and a gleam of light shot out from his eyes. He said, "I also want to ask Tang Xiaoxi why she would be so ruthless to kill Her Highness Qin Yin." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.